Chapter 981, Lift and Smash. Lei Jun, the second most powerful powerhouse in the current Izumo sect. When he bumped into Peng Bao a couple of days ago, he had formed a small team with the objective of finding and fighting for profundity fragments. Duan Lingtian noticed the greed that Lei Jun had revealed in his eyes when he first met Lei Jun. It was the kind of greed that spoke of how he could not wait to kill Duan Lingtian and take his spatial ring as his own. However, Duan Lingtian did not care about Lei Jun, and he did not consider Lei Jun a threat. Lei Jun fell out with Peng Bao when he realized Peng Bao was on Duan Lingtian's side and had intentionally protected him. He left and continued the journey on his own. This man sure knows how to linger. Duan Lingtian narrowed both his eyes and stared at him calmly as he stood far away. Meanwhile, Lei Jun, who seemed to have waited for him for a long time, mumbled as the edges of his lips moved lightly, "Duan Lingtian, if you're smart, give me the 8th level Monarch Stage Thunder Profundity Fragment that you traded with Peng Bao. If you do so, perhaps I'll keep your dead body in one piece." Lei Jun's eyes lit up when he saw Duan Lingtian appeared before him. He flew and was soon near Duan Lingtian. He stared into his eyes, and his tone was filled with superiority. The arrogant way he was looking at Duan Lingtian seemed like he was looking at a dead person rather than a living human. Perhaps in his eyes, it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to walk out from this place alive today. "Give you the profundity fragment, and you'll keep my dead body in one piece." When Duan Lingtian heard what Lei Jun said, he was stunned at first, but very quickly, he smiled. His smile was charming. "Lei Jun, since you said that, should I thank you for the mercy you showed me?" Of course. Lei Jun did not seem to understand the sarcasm in Duan Lingtian's words as he said with arrogance, "The people that I've killed, if I'm gentle, they would be blown into a few pieces. If it's severe, they would turn into pieces of meat that fly all over the place. Of course, you'll have to thank me for showing you mercy by keeping your dead body intact." Lei Jun wore a maniacal smile on his face as he spoke. His eyes gleamed coldly with a killing intent as though he would devour anybody who approached him. Duan Lingtian's face did not reveal even a hint of fear, contrary to Lei Jun's expectation. Instead, he looked at Lei Jun as though he was an idiot and took his time to remark, "Dumbass." Dumbass. Lei Jun was stunned, he was completely stunned. This Duan Lingtian was only a third-rate Force disciple, how dare he called him a dumbass? ****. Lei Jun, who snapped back to reality, shouted suddenly, and his rage soared to its peak. At the same time, origin energy swept over his entire body and turned into bolts and bolts of purple lightning. They were similar to thick purple electric snakes that surrounded and lingered on his body. Bang, 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 almost as soon as the origin energy on Lei Jun's body turned into bolts of purple lightning, a thunderous rumble was created. Meanwhile, the heaven and earth energy was rumbling in the sky above his head and proceeded to transform into heaven and earth phenomenon. There was a total of 800 ancient horned dragon silhouettes hovering in the sky. They looked alive as though they would charge at Duan Ling at any given time. 3rd level void transformation. 3rd level advanced thunder concept. Faced with the thunder concept, Lei Jun integrated with his origin energy that resulted in bolts of purple lightning energy surrounding his body. Duan Lingtian asked slowly with a relaxed expression, that's all you have?" Duan Lingtian's voice had a hint of insult in it. "Duan Lingtian, since you're asking for it, I'll make your dream come true." Lei Jun was initially provoked by Duan Lingtian, but his rage had subsided a lot when the energy swept through his body. However, after hearing what Duan Lingtian said, his emotion that had only just calmed down could no longer be restrained, and it completely exploded. Bang! Lei Jun stomped both feet on the ground, creating ferocious cracks on the ground. They spread out fast like a gigantic spider web. With the help of the momentum from his stomps, his entire body flew out like a bolt of lightning and dashed toward Duan Lingtian. Bang, 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 a deafening sound of thunder mixed with air explosion sound trailed after Lei Jun in the places he passed by. At the same time, waves of invisible air current spread out as a gust of strong wind blew from all directions. Sand and dust were flying everywhere around the cave. Bang! Lei Jun arrived before Duan Lingtian in an instant, and he punched with his fist without using any spirit weapon. The punch was like a bullet shooting at Duan Lingtian with the intention to kill him. The punch that contained 800 ancient horned dragons' strength and intertwined with purple lightning rushed toward Duan Lingtian as though it was going to destroy him. At the same time, Lei Jun smirked as he looked at Duan Lingtian, who stood unmoving before his eyes. To him, the reason Duan Lingtian was unresponsive was due to his alarming speed. Faced with his attack, this young disciple from just a third-rate force had yet to respond to such a speed. Indeed, a disciple from a third-rate force has a third-rate ability. You're like an ant before me. Just when Lei Jun expressed his disdain and thought that the punch that he had thrown was going to end Duan Lingtian's life immediately, he was shocked to find a terrifying resistance when his fist was just a stone's throw away from Duan Lingtian. Bomb! A light noise was heard. The sound came from Lei Jun's fist that was filled with rampant energy, and Duan Lingtian caught it easily with his lightning-fast hand when it was about to land on him. Lei Jun's fist that contained 800 ancient horned dragons' strength was like a meteor falling when he threw that punch out. However, it was similar to falling on a bale of cotton when it landed in Duan Lingtian's hand. There was no force behind the attack at all. Lei Jun's expression changed dramatically when the fist he threw out menacingly was easily caught by Duan Lingtian's bare hand. At this moment, no matter how dumb he was, he came to a clear conclusion that the power this purple-clad young man before him possessed was far above what he had. Just when Lei Jun planned to retract his fist from Duan Lingtian's hand that was like a pincer so that he could turn around and leave, his eyes narrowed instantly. At this moment, he was shocked to see the heaven and earth phenomenon that appeared above the purple-clad young man's head without him knowing when. There was a total of 1,100 ancient horned dragon silhouettes writhing as they descended. What he was seeing with his eyes gave him a great shock. 1,000 ancient horned dragons' strength without using any spirit weapon. Compared to the energy he had on his fist, that was 300 ancient horned dragons' strength more than what he had. When Lei Jun saw the 1,100 ancient horned dragon silhouettes before his eyes, he completely lost his bravery. **T. Very quickly, Lei Jun's facial expression changed again. It was filled with despair when he realized Duan Lingtian's strength could end his life easily. At the same time, he instinctively tried to retract his fist from Duan Lingtian's hand. However, his fist seemed to be rooted in Duan Lingtian's hand, he could not get it out at all. In the next second, an intense pain that came from his fist and permeated his entire body caused Lei Jun to release a devastating shriek from the bottom of his lungs. The devastating shriek sounded like it came from his heart and lungs being torn apart, giving anyone who heard it a numbing sensation on their scalps. The arm that Duan Lingtian used to hold Lei Jun's fist was merged with 4 types of concepts. It shook abruptly and destroyed all of the purple lightning that surrounded Lei Jun's fist. It was the resulting energy when Lei Jun merged his origin energy with thunder concept. After getting rid of the energy surrounding Lei Jun's fist, Duan Lingtian pressed his hand on Lei Jun's body, and the energy surrounding it swept through destructively. Lei Jun's body trembled, and his face turned pale. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. When Lei Jun had just caught his breath, he realized what Duan Lingtian was going to do when he saw him launching his next move. His expression changed greatly, and he screamed in panic, "No!" Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian ignored Lei Jun's scream as though he did not hear it at all. At the same time, Duan Lingtian proceeded to hold on to Lei Jun's fist tightly and lifted his arm suddenly. He lifted Lei Jun up entirely as he stared at the wall nearby with a cold gleam flashing in his eyes. Whoosh. Duan Lingtian lifted Lei Jun up and spun him in the air a couple of times like he was a windmill. He then let him go and threw him against the wall nearby like an arrow that was shot out of its bow. Bang! A loud bang sounded as gravels from the wall flew out. Lei Jun smashed into the cave's wall and turned into a slab of meat. The scene of him hanging on the wall was a terrifying scene to behold. The scene before his eyes looked very much like an abstract painting on Earth where Duan Lingtian used to live in his past life. Lei Jun had completely lost his breath. He could not be any more dead than this. Although Lei Jun tried to activate the energy in his body, in an attempt to break away from Duan Lingtian's control, many times when he was being lifted and was about to be smashed, his energy would always be suppressed by Duan Lingtian's energy mercilessly as soon as he mustered his energy out each time. Therefore, there was no energy of any sort to shield Lei Jun when he was lifted and thrown. His body was made out of flesh and blood after all. How could it possible for him to resist Duan Lingtian's strength or being smashed into the wall that was as tough as steel? Thus, Lei Jun was smashed to death by Duan Lingtian without any obstacles at all. From the beginning until the end, Lei Jun did not even have the chance to bring out the Grade 1 spirit weapon glove from his spatial ring. However, even if he managed to use any spirit weapon, he would not be able to escape the same ending because Duan Lingtian did not use any spirit weapon either. Greed has caused so many deaths. Duan Lingtian shook his head and sighed in low spirit. He put Lei Jun's spatial ring away and proceeded to walk out of the cave entrance that he entered from previously without even turning his head. It did not matter if it was Lei Jun whom he had just killed or Leng Ji whom he had killed previously, both of them faced the same ending because they were eyeing his profundity fragment. Soon, Duan Lingtian returned to the spacious cave while he waited for news that Peng Bao, Huang Daniu, and the other two would bring. 981 Chapter 982, Central Palace. Shortly after, 3 figures flew out from the center left entrance of the cave and appeared before Duan Lingtian. They were Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang. Duan Lingtian's eyes brightened when he saw the 3 of them, and he asked with a hopeful face, "How is it?" The 3 of them shook their heads. "It was an unsolvable maze, we traveled to every corner and found no other exit," Huang Daniu said with a bitter smile. It was apparent they were in the same boat as Duan Lingtian. "Looks like we'll have to wait for Peng Bao." When Duan Lingtian heard Huang Daniu's reply, he nodded with slight disappointment. "If the path Peng Bao took isn't the way to the central area, we'll have to split up and check out the 3 remaining entrances." Having said that, Duan Lingtian looked at the remaining entrances that had not been explored at both sides of the cave. So far, they still did not know the situation inside these 3 entrances. 1 hour passed quickly. Peng Bao's still not back. Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang could not help but furrow their brows. "Here he comes." Duan Lingtian focused his gaze and stared at the entrance on the furthest right. With his sharp hearing, he could clearly hear the rapid wind howling from inside. The sound got nearer and nearer. Soon, there was dust all over the entrance. Following that, a familiar figure flew out from the entrance and appeared before Duan Lingtian and the others. It was Peng Bao. As soon as Peng Bao appeared, he immediately smiled at Duan Lingtian and the others before he said, "This is the road to the central area." When the 4 of them heard his words, their eyes lit up instantly. The 5 of them departed immediately. They entered the entrance at the furthest right and continued traveling toward the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. As time went by, they were also getting closer and closer to the central area. Meanwhile, a lot of people were also drawing closer and closer in every direction to the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. 2 days later, "We've arrived." When Duan Lingtian saw the empty opening in the distance, his flashing figure gradually slowed down. He had successfully arrived at the location of the entrance. Duan Lingtian stood before the entrance. What appeared before his eyes were different from the entrances he had seen countless of time. The entrance before him was huge and spacious, it revealed a completely new world. To compare the entrance with the huge cave outside, it was just a hole high up on one side of the cave. There were countless similar holes around the wall of this huge cave. However, Duan Lingtian did not have time to ponder on that. His gaze immediately landed in the middle of the cave. A gigantic palace stood there. The seemingly magnificent and gigantic palace stood there like a sleeping beast that exuded an intimidating aura. This palace is the palace mentioned in the Martial Emperor's message. His final resting place when he died. Unknowingly, Peng Bao had caught up and stood beside Duan Lingtian. He was surprised as he sized up the gigantic palace that stood in the middle of the huge cave. The Martial Emperor's body is inside this palace. Huang Daniu had also caught up with them. His eyes were shining as he looked at the palace, and his breath quickened involuntarily. According to the Martial Emperor's message, there was a total of 3 profundity fragments in his body. One of it was an Emperor stage profundity fragment, and the other 2 were Monarch stage profundity fragments. Put aside the 2 Monarch stage profundity fragments, just the Emperor stage profundity fragment was enough to drive everybody crazy. Although Su Li and Zhang Shouyang remained silent, their burning gazes on the palace before them betrayed their inner thoughts. The palace stood in the huge cave as though it was a humongous statue, it exuded an ancient aura as though it had seen the vicissitudes of life, and it spoke of the history of its existence to the ones who came. "Someone's there." Su Li's sharp eyes quickly spotted 3 figures standing slightly apart in the air on the other side of the palace. It was obvious the 3 of them had arrived before them. Since the palace mentioned in the Martial Emperor's message had appeared, this place was undoubtedly their destination. The central area of Martial Emperor's secret treasure. "Senior brother Zuo." Peng Bao's low voice sounded in their ears once Su Li stopped talking. They followed Peng Bao's gaze to the distance and immediately saw a green figure hovering in midair. Originally, the green-clad young man stood there resting with his eyes closed. However, when Duan Lingtian and the others' gazes were trained on him, he opened his eyes as if he was aware of their gazes. His razor-sharp gaze was immediately focused on the direction of Duan Lingtian and the others. Let's go. Let me introduce you to senior brother Zuo. Duan Lingtian and the 3 other people flew out along with Peng Bao. They stopped near the green-clad young man in just a moment. Senior brother Zuo. Peng Bao's voice was laced with respect when he greeted the green-clad young man. It was the kind of respect that came from the depth of his heart. Junior brother Peng. The green-clad young man nodded at Peng Bao, but he did not acknowledge Duan Lingtian and the others. Although it was not offensive, it showed his confidence and aloofness. In this regard, the 4 of them were not surprised. It seems this is Zuo Yu whom Peng Bao previously mentioned to us. At this moment, Huang Danyu's voice transmission was clearly transmitted to Duan Lingtian, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang's ears. They were communicating secretly. It should be him. Su Li and Zhang Shouyang nodded. Zuo Yu. Duan Lingtian's eyebrows rose. The words that Peng Bao said while they were on the road seemed to echo in his ears. Among the younger generation in Anicha sect, I'm only the 2nd strongest. The strongest among the younger generation in Anicha sect is my senior brother Zuo. His full name is Zuo Yu, and he's the Anicha sect's Supreme Elder's only direct disciple. Anicha sect's Supreme Elder is the only martial monarch powerhouse in Anicha sect. Zuo Yu, the strongest person among the younger generation in Anicha sect. The direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse. Any one of the 2 titles was shocking enough. The combination of the 2 made Zuo Yu the brightest star in Anicha sect. Peng Bao could not help but feel awkward when he realized Zuo Yu did not even deign to look at Duan Lingtian and the others in the eyes. He smiled apologetically at them. Duan Lingtian and the others returned a smile and expressed that it did not matter. Since he was Zuo Yu, he was entitled to be so arrogant. Senior brother Zuo, these are my friends. These are Duan Lingtian, Huang Danyu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang. Peng Bao introduced them one by one to Zuo Yu. When he mentioned Duan Lingtian, Zuo Yu, who was standing there indifferently and confidently, looked at Duan Lingtian immediately. He did not even listen to what Peng Bao said after that. You're Duan Lingtian. Zuo Yu stared at Duan Lingtian. Even someone as aloof as him could not help but reveal greed in the depth of his eyes. That disciple from the 3rd-rate force, the 5-element sect. You're right, I'm that Duan Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian saw the greed in Zuo Yu's eyes, he was certain, without the need to ponder on it, that Zuo Yu had heard the news of him possessing a profundity fragment. Peng Bao's face changed dramatically when he sensed the smell of gunpowder between Duan Lingtian and Zuo Yu. Although Huang Danyu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang knew they were no match for Zuo Yu even if they joined hands, they still stood firmly behind Duan Lingtian and looked at Zuo Yu fiercely. There was a flash in Zuo Yu's eyes. Suddenly, he glanced at the 2 young men, who was standing apart in the distance, as if he had thought of something. When he noticed their gazes were on him, he did not take any action nor did he attack Duan Lingtian. He knew in his heart, if they knew about Duan Lingtian, it would be difficult for him to obtain the profundity fragment in Duan Lingtian's hand even with his strength. Zuo Yu's movement caught Duan Lingtian's eyes, and it made him turn to look at the 2 young men in the distance. One of them was tall and strong. Physically, he looked almost similar to Huang Danyu. The other one was dressed in green with a sheathed spirit sword on his back. He was a sword cultivator. Duan Lingtian was curious, so he extended his spirit energy toward them. Shortly after, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. There was a hint of shock and horror on his face as realization dawned on him. I see, they seem to be the strongest among the younger generation from Izumo sect and North Nether sect. Duan Lingtian was certain of it after he probed their cultivation. Their cultivation was on par with Zuo Yu. As for Zuo Yu, Duan Lingtian noticed the hint of hesitation in his eyes after he looked at them. That was why it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess Zuo Yu's thought process. Big brother Duan. At this moment, a familiar voice as beautiful as an oriole bird clearly entered Duan Lingtian's ears. Duan Lingtian stared intently at the place where the voice came from at once. There was a figure that flashed out like a fire elf toward him. Tian Wu. When Duan Lingtian saw the approaching figure, a gentle smile appeared on his face. He controlled the air and flew toward her. The figure that looked like a fire elf was none other than Feng Tian Wu. During Duan Lingtian's journey, he was constantly worried about Feng Tian Wu's safety. Now that he saw Feng Tianwu was safe and sound, the weight was finally lifted off his shoulders, and he heaved a sigh of relief. 982 Chapter 983, Totally Ignored. Big Brother Duan. Feng Tianwu's pretty face blushed involuntarily when she looked at the purple-clad young man whom she had missed dearly and dreamt of. Her face was so red it was as if blood would drip out from it. Feng Tianwu's captivating and beautiful face revealed a hint of shyness. It made the people who saw it could not help but want to hold her in their arms and pamper her. Tianwu. Duan Lingtian smiled and locked eyes with the red-clad girl. His eyes were filled with deep affection. He was not certain of his feelings when he faced Feng Tianwu. There was no awkwardness that was present in the past, and they seemed to be closer now, but in comparison to the feelings between a couple, it was not there yet. However, whenever he thought of the time when they had just entered the martial emperor's secret treasure, and how Feng Tianwu followed after him and Zishang disregarding her own safety when they fell into the bottomless abyss, his heart could not help but feel moved. His heart was not made of steel or stones. Naturally, he would be moved by Feng Tianwu's sacrifice. Feng Tianwu's status in his heart certainly had an earth-shaking change after that incident. It was just missing the last step of putting a name to it before their hearts could completely be one. Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy extended naturally to Feng Tianwu's body. He was startled when he realized something. Feng Tianwu's cultivation had progressed to the 4th level void interpretation. Although she had improved compared to her previous state at the 3rd level void interpretation, it was insufficient to startle him. What shocked him was the wave of burning aura from Feng Tianwu's body. The burning aura was hidden in Feng Tianwu's body, and it seemed ready to come out with just a command as though it was ready to burn his spiritual energy. What happened? Duan Lingtian's face immediately turned grave as he retracted his spiritual energy. The feeling he had gotten from Feng Tianwu was as though a dreaded flaming demon beast was sleeping in her body. Once that flaming demon beast woke up, Feng Tianwu would surely die. Duan Lingtian was certain about this. Is it the fire spirit body's power? Very quickly, Duan Lingtian vaguely made a guess. It seemed to be the only reason. But Tianwu is only almost 26 years old. There are still 4 more years before the fire spirit body's power will be activated. Duan Lingtian was confused. I think Tianwu must have encountered something in the martial emperor's secret treasure that caused the fire spirit body's power in her to be unstable. Duan Lingtian became more and more solemn as his train of thoughts grew longer. What a beautiful woman! Feng Tianwu's appearance caught the attention of Peng Bao, Zhuo Yu, and the 2 young men in the distance. At this moment, their gazes at Feng Tianwu revealed their fascination. They had seen a lot of beautiful women. However, it was their first time seeing one with such a temperament. They could not help but feel moved by her. Brother Lingtian, you're really fortunate. Even Peng Bao was in awe of Feng Tianwu's beauty. He noticed Feng Tianwu's gaze toward Duan Lingtian was filled with love and admiration. When he witnessed the scene, he was envious but also happy for Duan Lingtian. Although he had just met Duan Lingtian, they had become true friends because of their similar temperament. Heng, Zhuo Yu scoffed. There was a hint of jealousy in his stern gaze toward Duan Lingtian. After he found out about Duan Lingtian's identity, his first thought was to kill him and snatch the profundity fragment in his hands. However, he gave up on that idea then because there were 2 other people present who was equally as popular as him in the northern desert. He knew that if he attacked Duan Lingtian, it would attract both of their attention, and they would surely join in the fight. If that happened, it was very likely that he would end up with nothing. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to ask Feng Tianwu about what happened to her fire spirit body in the martial emperor's secret treasure, a loud voice came from afar and broke the silence. Duan Lingtian, you're indeed alive. Who? Under everyone's watchful eyes, a bald young man dressed in a kasaya flew out from an entrance on one side of the huge cave. He was extremely fast. In just a blink of an eye, he was standing in midair close to Duan Lingtian. Zanbei. Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrow and smiled faintly when he saw the young monk before him. Of course I'm alive and well since we haven't fulfilled the agreement we have. Zanbei, the strongest person among the younger generation of Empyrean Temple's disciples, was the young monk who made a pact with Duan Lingtian at Skywolf Fort. How do you feel about fulfilling the agreement we have now? Zanbei narrowed his eyes and slowly said with a smile on his face the entire time, I'm very interested in the profundity fragment in your hands. Profundity fragment. Zhuo Yu, whose expression was already grim when he heard Zanbei calling out Duan Lingtian's name, became gloomier when Zanbei finished his sentence. Earlier, when Zanbei called out to Duan Lingtian, he noticed the two other people from Izumo sect and North Nether sect respectively, who were equally as popular as him, instantly focused their gazes on Duan Lingtian. However, they did not react at all even after a while. Then, as Zanbei carelessly said the word, profundity fragment, he could clearly see realization dawning on their faces as their gazes brightened suddenly. Oh no, Zhuo Yu's heart sank. What he least hoped would happen had happened. Show. Just as Zanbei finished his sentence, both of the young men in the distance finally reacted. Their robes fluttered, and they vanished into thin air in the very next moment. When they reappeared, they were near Duan Lingtian. They stared intently at him. At this moment, their eyes gleamed as they stared at Duan Lingtian. They did not look like they were sizing up a person, they looked more like they were inspecting a precious treasure. You're Duan Lingtian, that disciple from the third-rate force who obtained a profundity fragment. Both of them stared at Duan Lingtian and spoke almost simultaneously with a questioning tone. Originally, Feng Tianwu was quietly looking into the eyes of her sweetheart, feeling blessed at that moment. The two voices that sounded like the cawing of crows shattered the moment of peace and caused her face to change. When Feng Tianwu was about to react, a gentle voice transmission entered her ears and calmed her down. Tianwu, did you encounter anything in the Martial Emperor's secret treasure? Why do I feel like the fire spirit body's power in you isn't as calm as it used to be? A gentle voice filled with concern managed to completely calm Feng Tianwu's emotions. She blushed even harder, it was as if blood would drip from her face. The feeling of being cared for was nice. Not to mention being cared for by one's sweetheart. Feng Tianwu nodded and instantly responded via voice transmission, not too long ago, I obtained a 9th-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed instantly when Feng Tianwu finished her sentence. The outer ring of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure had 5 Monarch Stage Profundity Fragments. Previously, he was curious, apart from the 3 that he possessed, who had obtained the 2 other fragments. Now he knew one of it was with Tianwu. And it's a 9th-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment. Duan Lingtian was really shocked. It should be noted that the best one among the 3 Monarch Stage Profundity Fragments that he possessed was merely an 8th-level Monarch Stage Profundity Fragment. It was incomparable to a 9th-level Monarch Stage Profundity Fragment. When I held it in my hands, it left my palms and entered my body after turning into liquid, Feng Tianwu's voice continued to be transmitted. Duan Lingtian suppressed his shock and continued listening carefully to Feng Tianwu's detailed experience in the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. It was Feng Tianwu's biggest secret. However, in front of Duan Lingtian, Feng Tianwu divulged everything without reservation. Duan Lingtian's face turned more and more grave as Feng Tianwu's story progressed. Tianwu is able to comprehend the first-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. As a normal martial artist, being able to comprehend the first-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment might be a good thing. However, that was not the case for Feng Tianwu, the owner of a fire spirit body. If it's a normal martial artist, such an unusual change from using the 9th-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment is impossible. Tianwu's fire spirit body must be the cause of the Profundity Fragment's unusual change. Duan Lingtian was almost certain about this. I don't know if there's a similar incident in the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory. Duan Lingtian was stunned due to his concern, and he anxiously searched the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory from both lives and tried to get answers from it. He had a feeling the changes in the concept fragment in Tianwu's body, and her ability to comprehend the first-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment was not beneficial to her. Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu were communicating through voice transmission, and they stood there quietly and completely ignored the questions from the 2 people from Izumo sect and North Nether sect. The faces of the tall and strong young man from Izumo sect and the green-clad young man from North Nether sect instantly darkened. Haha, Lei Zhang, Shu Qing, they totally ignored the both of you. At this moment, Zhuo Yu laughed uncontrollably as he looked at his old rivals with derision. Lei Zhang, the strongest person among the younger generation of Izumo sect, was the direct disciple of the only martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect. On the other hand, Shu Qing, the strongest person among the younger generation of North Nether sect, was a direct disciple of the sect leader of North Nether sect. 983 Chapter 984, First Level Advanced Thunder Concept. Shu Qing was unruffled when he heard Zhuo Yu's sarcastic remarks since he knew Zhuo Yu was intentionally provoking him. That was why he could quickly regain his composure and stay calm. Shua. Contrary to Shu Qing, Lei Zong's face changed dramatically. He had a bad temper, and he could not stay calm after he heard Zuo Yu's sarcastic remark. He moved in an instant like a fierce goshawk. He flashed by and lunged at Duan Lingtian with a great momentum. He was incomparably fast. Wah! As Lei Zhang flashed by, a milky white flame surged out from his body. When the milky white flame appeared, it instantly transformed into red flames that covered the entire sky. He looked like a vast flame as he swept toward Duan Lingtian, intending to swallow Duan Lingtian up. Lei Zhang, who was surrounded by flames, was like the god of fire came to life. When he punched, a burning fireball flew out. The airflow compressed and set off a series of air explosion sound. As the air explosion sounded, a scorching airwave spread everywhere. At the space above Lei Zhang, the heaven and earth energy stirred and formed the heaven and earth phenomenon. Initially, 600 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared before another 500 more appeared. 4th level void transformation, 4th level advanced fire concept. The gap between the 4th level void transformation and the 3rd level void transformation was like an impassable gulf and an insurmountable divider. A 3rd level void transformation martial artist who fully exerted his origin energy had a strength equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragons. On the other hand, a 4th level void transformation martial artist who fully exerted his origin energy had a strength equivalent to 600 ancient horned dragons. That was 200 more ancient horned dragons' strength compared to the former. Wah, 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 comma. The airwaves from the compressed air flow created a gust of fierce and burning wind. The people who were present at the scene felt as though there was heat wave coming their way. That feeling made them very uncomfortable. Lei Zhang attacked Duan Lingtian quickly without even using a spirit weapon. Perhaps, in his opinion, a young disciple from a third-rate force had not earned the rights for him to use a spirit weapon. Apart from that, he thought it was pure luck that Duan Lingtian managed to obtain a profundity fragment. The 1100 ancient horned dragon silhouettes above Lei Zhang as he punched his fist out like a cannonball shooting out of a cannon as the flames covered the sky. It headed straight for Duan Lingtian as though it could destroy Duan Lingtian with just a punch. Feng Tianwu reacted quickly, her face changed dramatically as she yelled, "Big brother Duan, be careful." When she cautioned Duan Lingtian, her eyes turned blood red, and her body exuded waves of terrifying scorching aura that kept rising. Flames rose from Feng Tianwu's body, and at the space above her, the heaven and earth energy stirred as it seemingly gathered into 1,000 or even 2,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. "It's okay, I can handle him." As flames rose uncontrollably from Feng Tianwu's body, a voice transmission entered her ears and completely reassured her. She had unconditional trust toward the owner of that voice. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Lingtian, who seemed distracted and unprepared, turned around in an instant. He raised his hand and threw a punch to counter Lei Zong's fiery punch with a great momentum. When Duan Lingtian punched, milky white origin energy surged out. It immediately transformed into a vast khaki energy entwined with purple lightning and green wind. Additionally, his punch was followed by sword energy like a shadow. It contained sword concept that was extremely terrifying. Bang, 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 comma. When Duan Lingtian punched, the air compressed once again and set off another series of air explosion that sounded like exploding mines. Moreover, the mighty airwaves spread in all directions resulting in gusts of biting cold wind that clashed with the scorching wind from Lei Zhang. Subsequently, another burst of air explosion sounded ceaselessly one after another. Everyone's robes rustled in the wind. However, no one was paying attention to that. Their eyes were locked on the two individuals' impending collision. More accurately, the impending collision of their fists. The flames on Lei Zong's body surged and raged. His punch was like the god of fire's wrath. It tore through the sky and exuded an overwhelming scorching aura that shrouded Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's robes were billowing and fluttering. His fist that contained all his origin energy and the four concepts punched out unreservedly. Bang! Both their fists collided in an instant. The force from the collision set off a deafening noise. The airwave could be clearly seen in the air as it rippled out in all directions. Those with weaker cultivation like the trio Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang paled one after another. They could feel their vital energies and blood surging up and down since they were faintly affected. So strong. When they saw how Duan Lingtian could match Lei Zong's fist and did not lag behind even though he punched with his bare fist, the three of them, including Huang Daniu, calmed down their surging vital energies and blood as their eyes brightened. Bang, 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 comma. In the center where Duan Lingtian and Lei Zong's fist collided, ripples of airwaves spread out creating gusts of violent wind. Pa, pa. At this moment, the hair bands on Duan Lingtian and Lei Zong's head broke at almost the same time. Their long hair was billowing in the wind as though they were tiny black writhing snakes. Bang, 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 comma. Their forces kept colliding where their fists met before they converged and set off a deafening noise. They were evenly matched. How's that possible? Zhuo Yu's eyes narrowed when he witnessed the scene, his face was filled with incredulity. He found it hard to believe that the scene before him was real. That Duan Lingtian, a mere young disciple from a third-rate force who looked no older than 25 years old, was evenly matched with Lei Zhang. This Duan Lingtian is stronger than Lei Zhang. Xu Qing, who was calm, could not help but move. He muttered, in their match, Lei Zhang took the lead and had the upper hand, and yet, Duan Lingtian, who hurriedly returned the punch, managed to counter Lei Zhang's punch. The strength of Duan Lingtian's punch is definitely more than Lei Zhang. If he's at the same level as Lei Zhang, his hasty punch would not be locked in a stalemate with Lei Zhang's punch. Compared to Zhuo Yu, Xu Qing had a more thorough analysis of the scene before him. Duan Lingtian was better. Seemingly set off by Xu Qing's muttering, the heaven and earth energy that was stirring above Duan Lingtian finally formed the heaven and earth phenomenon. 1,200 ancient horned dragons' silhouettes solidified into form, and they descended majestically. The heaven and earth phenomenon indicated that Duan Lingtian's bare-handed punch currently contained the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons. Compared to Lei Zong's punch that contained the strength of 1,100 ancient horned dragons, there was 100 more ancient horned dragons' strength. 1,200 ancient horned dragons' strength. Duan Lingtian's third-level void transformation cultivation base was equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragons' strength. Third-level advanced wind concept was equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragons' strength. The ninth-level intermediate earth concept along with the sword concept was equivalent to 200 ancient horned dragons' strength. In addition to the first-level advanced thunder concept that was equivalent to 200 ancient horned dragons' strength, there was a total of 1,200 ancient horned dragons' strength. That was right, Duan Lingtian's thunder concept had progressed. On the day he killed Lei Jun, he successfully progressed from the ninth-level intermediate to the first-level advanced. Bang! A loud bang sounded again as the heaven and earth phenomenon formed at the space above Duan Lingtian. The purple lightning entwined around his fist became more vivid as it raged even more. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian recovered from the disadvantage of losing the lead in his hasty attack. He fully exerted his strength and charged with the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons' strength. After he recovered from his disadvantage, the result was obvious when his 1,200 ancient horned dragons' strength went against Lei Zong's 1,100 ancient horned dragons' strength. Crushed. Totally crushed. Impossible. Lei Zhang was lifted and smashed by just one punch from Duan Lingtian. When pain permeated the fist he attacked with, Lei Zhang did not scream. His eyes narrowed, he could not believe the scene before his eyes to be true. A mere disciple from a third-rate force had overpowered him with just a move when he had the advantage of attacking first. It did not matter if Lei Zhang was willing to believe it or not. The fact that he was weaker than Duan Lingtian, and the fact that he was lifted and smashed until he was critically injured were true. Wah! Lei Zhang, who was lifted and smashed by Duan Lingtian with a punch, flew for more than 100 meters before he came to a halt. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of vividly red blood. I'm hurt, by a young disciple from a third-rate force. He extended his hand and wiped the corner of his mouth, his eyes narrowed when he saw the blood on his hands. His expression immediately stiffened. However, he seemed to have noticed something shortly after. With a tremble, he suddenly recovered from his daze. It was because he realized Duan Lingtian, who was from a third-rank force, the Five-Element sect, did not seem to have any intention of stopping after he was punched away. Duan Lingtian's eyes were cold, and his face was frosty. He was stepping in the air with a moderate speed as he headed toward Lei Zhang. Cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes. In his opinion, killing this opponent, who was the strongest among the younger generation from Izumo sect, was not only a payback of his recklessness. More importantly, he wanted to make a point. At this moment, there were more people entering this huge cave. Among them were disciples from Anicha sect, North Nether sect, and Izumo sect. Pang, 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 comma. At this moment, the scene was deadly silent. Every step Duan Lingtian took caused the air flow to vibrate and echo. Every sound that fell into Lei Zong's ears was as loud as thunder to him, and his face visibly paled immediately. 984. Wham, wham, comma. Every step Duan Lingtian took was akin to a giant hammer pounding on Lei Zong's heart. His breathing quickened, and he unable to calm down for a very long time. When Lei Zong noticed the killing intent in Duan Lingtian's eyes, he turned ghastly pale and hastily took out a wound-curing medicinal pill for his own consumption. However, even if he consumed a wound-curing medicinal pill, it would take quite a while before he would recover from the injury that he currently suffered from, and it would undoubtedly affect the control of his strength. Whoosh! Nobody noticed when, but a thick and solid saber suddenly appeared in Lei Zong's left hand that was still intact. As the flame in his hand soared, it continued to merge with the saber, and a saber ray appeared immediately. Swoosh! The heaven and earth energy once again solidified and formed 1100 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head before another 520 over silhouettes of ancient horned dragons followed suit. Over 1620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons hovered and whirred above Lei Zong's head, ready to attack at any given time. However, perhaps due to the fact that his injury was not fully healed yet, the over 1620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above Lei Zong's head appeared extremely unstable. A moment later, it decreased to over 1500 silhouettes, and another second later, it dropped down to become 1400 silhouettes only. Eventually, it became less than 150 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. However, at this moment, Duan Lingtian, who was striding forward, also had a sword in his hand. It was the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. The moment the quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared, Duan Lingtian merged his energy with it, and another 400 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons instantly appeared next to the 1200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above him. 1600 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. Such a heaven and earth phenomenon was more than enough to amaze the others, but the majority of the people present at the scene could not help but feel momentarily stunned. Those people were none other than Zhuo Yu, Xu Qing, Peng Bao, and the other disciples from the second-rate forces. This Duan Lingtian only has the strength of 1600 ancient horned dragons when he uses his spirit weapon. It's over 20 ancient horned dragons weaker compared to Lei Zong when he's in his prime and using his spirit weapon. But, when he's not using his spirit weapon, his strength is 100 ancient horned dragons stronger than Lei Zong. What's going on? Or, maybe he's concealing his strength. I think that's the only plausible explanation. Otherwise, won't Lei Zong's defeat today become meaningless? Well, that's because after he's injured by Duan Lingtian, Lei Zong can no longer display the strength that he possesses during his prime. Even if he uses his spirit weapon, his strength is unable to go beyond 1500 ancient horned dragons. The people who were busy speculating were none other than the Anicha sect and North Nether sect's disciples who managed to arrive at the central zone of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure alive. There were not more than 5 of them. Based on their words, it was apparent that they were taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. In their opinions, if Duan Lingtian dared to kill Lei Zong would definitely die today. The faces of the remaining 2 Azumo sect's disciples were awfully pale at this moment. Lei Zong was the strongest person among the current younger generation in their Anicha sect. In their eyes, he was their undefeated god of war. However, today, the undefeated god of war in their eyes was in a disadvantageous situation in the face of a third-rate forces disciple. Moreover, his life was in grave danger as well. Presently, almost everybody in the group of second-rate forces disciples knew who Duan Lingtian was. Before they arrived, they had already heard of the name, Duan Lingtian. He was the strongest person among the current younger generation in 5-element sect, a third-rate force, and had obtained a profundity fragment at the outer ring of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. And to think before this, I actually thought of killing him and snatching that profundity fragment from his hands if I meet him. Now that I look at it, thank goodness I didn't meet him. Otherwise, I'm sure I'll be among the dead right now. One of the Azumo sect's disciples smiled wryly. No doubt, if even senior brother Lei Zong can be seriously injured by him, what do we have to go against his strength? With his strength, it's no wonder he's able to get his hands on that profundity fragment. The other Azumo sect's disciple was deeply impressed. In the next second, he added again, however, he won't dare to kill senior brother Lei Zong unless he's crazy. Otherwise, not only him but 5-element sect, that third-rate force that he's in, will have to bear the wrath of our Izumo sect. Exactly. Unless he slaughters all the eyewitness, he won't be able to live if he kills senior brother Lei Zhang. Moreover, he'll only be inviting trouble to the sect he's in. The former Izumo sect disciple expressed his agreement as well. At this time, the majority of the remaining people did not think Duan Lingtian would kill Lei Zhang. After all, killing Lei Zhang was akin to making an enemy out of Izumo sect. Izumo sect was one of the 3 strongest second-rate forces in Cloud Continent. They only needed to dispatch a martial monarch powerhouse, and it was enough to annihilate the entire 5-element sect, a third-rate force, from the northern desert without much effort. However, how could they know what Duan Lingtian was thinking? When they saw Duan Lingtian increased his speed and charged toward Lei Zhang again before he sent the thick and solid huge saber flying from Lei Zhang's hand in just 3 blows and wounded him severely again, all of them went crazy over it. How dare this third-rate force's disciple act so recklessly? When Duan Lingtian raised a hand to strike with his sword, it was neither too slow nor too fast, and he was about to stab Lei Zhang's throat to kill him off. He's crazy. Duan Lingtian's crazy. Isn't he afraid of Izumo sect seeking revenge on him? At this moment, other than the 2 young disciples from Izumo sect who were scared stiff, the Anicha sect and North Nether sect's disciples could not help but mutter to each other. All they felt was a chill that ran down their spines. Was the purple-clad young man before them really a disciple from a third-rate force? Since when did a third-rate force's disciple become so daring? Zhuo Yu, Shu Qing, and Peng Bao were shocked by Duan Lingtian's action. Peng Bao shouted anxiously, trying to stop him from killing Lei Zhang, Duan Lingtian. In his opinion, if Duan Lingtian forced his sword forward, he would undoubtedly die. Moreover, the third-rate force, 5-element sect, that he was in would definitely be annihilated as well. As an Anicha sect's disciple, he was very clear about this. The wrath of Izumo sect was not to be trifled with. If a third-rate force's disciple dared to kill him, the result would be the same as well. The Anicha sect he was in would spare no effort to kill the third-rate force's disciple and destroy the third-rate force completely. The pride of a second-rate force would never allow a third-rate force to trample on it. In the eyes of the people from the second-rate forces, the third-rate forces and their people were undoubtedly as feeble as ants. They were like an existence that would collapse at the first blow. Oh! Upon hearing Peng Bao's voice, Duan Lingtian's right hand trembled for a moment before he moved the sword away. However, his left hand was not left idle, and once again, another palm struck out and inflicted another serious injury on Lei Zhang, who was already severely injured. Barf! Lei Zhang spat out another mouthful of blood. Ghastly pale, there seemed to be no colors on his face at all. His body swayed and faltered as though he was going to fall from the sky at any moment. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian raised his left hand and gripped Lei Zhang's throat before he hoisted him up forcefully. Right now, he only needed to grip a little harder, and Lei Zhang would definitely die. As Duan Lingtian gripped Lei Zhang's throat and lifted him up, he looked at Peng Bao and a hint of perplexity could be seen in his eyes. Yeah. Peng Bao did not beat around the bush and voiced his concern immediately. Duan Lingtian, you can injure Lei Zhang but don't rashly kill him off. If he's not dead, everything can still be discussed, but if he's dead, not only you but the 5-element sect behind you will most likely be eradicated as well. He said such words because he regarded Duan Lingtian as a friend and did not want to see Duan Lingtian walk on the path of no return. 5-element sect. Upon hearing Peng Bao's words, Duan Lingtian frowned before heaving a sigh. Oh, yeah, I forgot. 5-element sect won't be able to survive Izumo sect's wrath. Duan Lingtian's voice was not particularly loud, but everybody present at the scene heard his words. At once, almost everyone on the scene, including Feng Tianwu, believed Duan Lingtian would no longer kill Lei Zhang. This Duan Lingtian's finally giving in. Of course, the wrath of Izumo sect is not something that he or the 5-element sect can fight against. A few young disciples from Anicha sect and North Nether sect buried their heads together in discussion. They were not surprised by this change at all. As for the 2 young disciples from Izumo sect, a smug smile crept up on their faces immediately. The fact that Izumo sect was such a powerful deterrent made them proud of being the disciples of Izumo sect. Cough! Di Duan Lingtian. You don't dare to kill me after all. F for everything that you've done to me today. I'll definitely go to the 5-element sect one day and return everything to you 10 or 100-fold. The eyes of Lei Zhang, who was lifted by his throat and humiliated by Duan Lingtian, was completely cold. He glared at Duan Lingtian and gnashed his teeth in hatred. However, it seemed as though Duan Lingtian did not even hear a word of what Lei Zhang said. He continued to frown as if he was thinking about something. Finally, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses after a while. Today, I hereby declare that from this moment on, I, Duan Lingtian, will leave the Five-Element sect. From now on, everything about the Five-Element sect has nothing to do with me, and all of my business has nothing to do with the Five-Element sect as well. Duan Lingtian finally opened his mouth. The words that left his mouth was terrifyingly shocking and inexplicable. The moment Duan Lingtian ended his speech, the entire place became deadly silent at once. What the hell was Duan Lingtian thinking? This was the first thought that came to the minds of most people present at the scene. Big brother Duan, Feng Tianwu was the first one to return to her senses. Her face immediately became solemn when she realized his next course of action. Very soon, Peng Bao regained his senses as well. Horror dawned on his face again, and he hastily advised, Brother Lingtian. Don't be so rash. Even if you leave Five-Element sect, and Azumo sect doesn't go after them to maintain their image, you'll still have to bear the wrath of Azumo sect and suffer from being pursued by them. It's not worth it to go against the entire Azumo sect just for Lei Zhang. Duan Lingtian, Brother Lingtian, Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang were looking at Duan Lingtian with a worried look on their faces as well. They were afraid that he would really kill Lei Zhang and invite trouble for himself. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian looked at Lei Zhang and asked calmly, Is your name Lei Zhang? That's right. I'm Lei Zhang, the direct disciple of the only martial monarch powerhouse in Azumo sect. Lei Zhang spat out his words bit by bit. His hoarse voice was full of pride, and he was still oblivious to the impending crisis. 985. Slap. Almost at the same time when Lei Zhang's last word left his mouth, a crisp slapping sound reverberated in the air and clearly entered the ears of everyone present at the scene. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian raised a hand and gave Lei Zhang a loud slap in the face. It left a visible palm print on one half of his face and made it swell instantly. For a moment, all the bystanders could feel was a chill running down their spines. This Duan Lingtian was just too daring. How dare he gave Lei Zhang a slap even after he said he was the direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse. They had to admit they really admired Duan Lingtian's courage from the bottom of their hearts. However, although they admired his courage, it did not mean they agreed with Duan Lingtian's way of doing things. That's just searching for death. At the same time, the majority of the people felt Duan Lingtian was merely looking for death. That included Zuo Yu, the strongest person among the younger generations in Anicha sect. At this moment, the gaze that Zuo Yu used to look at Duan Lingtian was like he was staring at a dead person. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian's action would undoubtedly provoke the pride of that martial monarch powerhouse from Azumo sect. Even if he made it out alive from the martial emperor's secret treasure, he would still, without a doubt, die eventually. That martial monarch powerhouse would never let him go. After slapping Lei Zhang, who glared at him fiercely and itched to smash him into powder, Duan Lingtian asked with a calm face in tone that was neither fast nor slow, I only asked whether you're Lei Zhang or not. Did I ask you whose direct disciple you are? Why you? Lei Zhang narrowed his eyes, and it seemed like he was about to open his mouth again. Slap. Another loud slap landed on the other half of Lei Zhang's face. The slap turned his face into a pig's face. Did I ask you to speak? Duan Lingtian gave Lei Zhang another slap and continued to look at him calmly. It thoroughly enraged Lei Zhang. With an even more intense hatred, he glared at Duan Lingtian, but he did not dare to utter another word. He believed that if he dared to say another word, the other party would definitely give him another slap in the face without any hesitation. This purple-clad young man was like a madman through and through. When the people at the side saw Duan Lingtian slap Lei Zhang again, chills ran down their spines again. All that was running through their minds right now was how big of a gut this Duan Lingtian possessed. He was so daring to make light of that martial monarch powerhouse. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? With the usual calm tone, Duan Lingtian questioned word by word as he stared at Lei Zhang. This time, Lei Zhang did not answer. However, the extreme coldness that could be seen in his eyes expressed the thoughts in his mind. Slap. Another loud slap resonated in the air. It gripped the bystanders' hearts so much that all of their heartbeats turned rapid instantly. Each and every one of them could feel their blood running cold. Duan Lingtian gave Lei Zhang another slap. Lei Zhang's eyeballs were almost bulging out due to the fierce and intense glare he shot Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian asked again, "Didn't you hear my question?" His tone was no longer calm but contained a hint of coldness now. Finally, Lei Zhang swallowed back the blood that rose up from his throat and asked in a hoarse yet cold voice, "Don't tell me you dare to kill me." Ignoring his question, Duan Lingtian asked without caring, "Your name's Lei Zhang, I wonder what relationship you have with Lei Jun, the second strongest person or something among the younger generation in Anicha sect." He had a feeling since Lei Zhang and Lei Jun's surname were both Lei, and both were the most outstanding disciples among the younger generation in Izumo sect, they must be related in some ways. "He's my younger blood brother, and also the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect." The moment Lei Zhang heard Duan Lingtian mentioning Lei Jun, his pale face was suddenly filled with a sense of pride. "Your younger brother, what a coincidence." Duan Lingtian laughed. The laugh was extremely hearty, but as soon as his laughter died down, his tone turned cold immediately as though it came directly from a thaw hole. "I've already killed your brother, so, do you really think I don't dare to kill you?" Clamor. The moment the words left Duan Lingtian's mouth, the crowd exploded in an uproar immediately. Duan Lingtian had killed Lei Zhang's younger brother. The Lei Jun who was also the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect. Shit, he's doomed. The instant Peng Bao heard Duan Lingtian's words, he was initially stunned before a wry smile crept up on his face. He knew the moment Duan Lingtian made the announcement, him and Izumo sect were destined to be locked in an endless grudge. No wonder. I was just wondering why I didn't see Lei Jun at all. He should have arrived at the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure earlier than us. It didn't cross my mind that he might be dead. Apart from Peng Bao, Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang were also hit by a pang of realization. As for where and when Lei Jun died, it was not difficult for them to figure it out. Some time ago, after the fallout between Lei Jun and Peng Bao, Lei Jun left on his own. While they were on their way to the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure with Duan Lingtian, they only separated once at the cavern with 6 entrances to explore separately. Now that they thought about it, it had to be during that time when Duan Lingtian met Lei Jun and killed him. This Duan Lingtian is dead now. A sneer crept up on the corner of Zuo Yu's mouth as he rejoiced in other people's misfortune. Xu Qing's face remained calm, but a hint of shock could be seen in his eyes. He was astonished by Duan Lingtian's courage. "It looks like Lei Zhang is going to die this time." Xu Qing sighed. Since Duan Lingtian announced the fact that he killed Lei Jun in front of everyone, it meant that he was determined to kill Lei Zhang. "What? You killed my brother?" Lei Zhang's eyes narrowed. His ashen face darkened and his body that was lifted by Duan Lingtian on the neck was so agitated that he was trembling in anger violently. His eyes were filled with extreme chilliness. "Why, you're dead. You're dead," Lei Zhang roared in his hoarse voice. "You won't get to see whether I'll be dead or not anyway." Duan Lingtian remained indifferent. As a cold gleam flashed across his eyes, the hand that was gripping Lei Zhang's neck suddenly tightened. Crack! A crisp sound of bones breaking reverberated in the air and entered everybody's ears. It made their blood run cold as chills ran down their spines. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Lei Zhang who was still glaring did not even manage to let out a yell. Just like that, with his head drooping to one side, he went completely still immediately. The eyes that were originally filled with wrath turned bleak in an instant. Whoosh! With a lift of his hand, Duan Lingtian took Lei Zhang's spatial ring from his hand and let go of his grip at the same time. Lei Zhang's body slipped and fell from hundreds over meters high from the sky and eventually became a puddle of bloody pulp on the ground. Silence. The entire scene was so quiet that it was terrifying even though everyone present at the scene knew Duan Lingtian was going to kill Lei Zhang when he announced that he had already killed Lei Jun. After all, after he admitted to killing Lei Jun, even if he did not kill Lei Zhang, he would still face the same outcome after he left the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. Since the outcome would be the same after he made that announcement, he naturally would not let Lei Zhang go. Due to this reason, Lei Zhang was dead. Although it was within their expectations, they were still struck with fear upon seeing this. Especially the disciples from the 3 major second-rate forces. They knew very well about the position that both Lei Zhang and Lei Jun held in Izumo sect. Not only were those two the heads of the current younger generations in Izumo sect, the two brothers were also the pillars of Izumo sect's future. Moreover, they were also the direct disciples of the two strongest powerhouses in Izumo sect. The strongest person in Izumo sect was none other than Lei Zong's master, the only martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect, the Supreme Elder. As for the second strongest person in Izumo sect, he was none other than Lei Jun's master, the current sect leader of Izumo sect. The fact that Duan Lingtian killed both Lei Zhang and Lei Jun was equivalent to giving a loud slap to the faces of the two most powerful powerhouses in Izumo sect and completely ignoring their pride. Whoosh, 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 comma. At this moment, a few more people arrived at the central zone of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. They arrived just in time to witness the scene of Duan Lingtian killing Lei Zhang and turning him into a pulpy mess. Who's the unlucky one who dared to provoke senior brother Lingtian? There were many Five Element sect's disciples among this group of people as well. They could not help but mourn for Lei Zhang. Naturally, they thought this way because they did not know of Lei Zhang's identity yet. Otherwise, they would not be so calm. He's actually still alive. When one of the few remaining Five Element sect's disciples saw Duan Lingtian, shock and disbelief filled his eyes right away as though he had just seen something remarkable. Duan Lingtian. At the same time, a fast figure appeared in time on top of the side of the central palace. Zhang Yang just arrived and immediately witnessed the scene of Duan Lingtian committing a murder. That guy, isn't he a young powerhouse who entered from entrance No. 1. When Zhang Yan saw the body that had been smashed to a pulp, his eyes gleamed before his expression was replaced with a dumbfounded look. Since he did not enter from entrance number 2, it could only mean that he entered from entrance No. 1. During his journey, he had learned about the group of young powerhouses who entered the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. He knew that other than entrance number 2, there was one more entrance, entrance number 1, that allowed people to come in. The people who entered from the entrance number 1 was none other than the group of young disciples from the three major second-rate forces of the Northern Desert. Duan Lingtian actually killed a second-rate forces disciple in the front of so many people. The corner of Zhang Yan's mouth twitched slightly. Although he had also killed a few disciples from the second-rate forces in his journey, there was no one alive who knew about this at all. He did not have such big guts to kill a second-rate forces disciple in the eyes of so many people. Compared to a third-rate force like the emotion-severing sect that he was in, although there was only a one-word difference with the second-rate force, the differences in both their strengths and backgrounds were a whole world of difference. In the end, Zhang Yan could not contain his curiosity anymore and turned toward the young monk standing nearby and asked via voice transmission, "Zanbei, what's going on?" At this moment, the young monk was staring dazedly at the purple-clad young man who stood a distance away. He was unable to return to his senses for a long time. Zhang Yan's voice transmission took him by surprise and woke him up instantly. A wry smile instantly crept up on his face as he replied through voice transmission, "What else?" Duan Lingtian just killed that Lei Zhang from Izumo sect. When Duan Lingtian cast the strength of 1200 ancient horned dragons without the help of any spirit weapon, he knew that he was far from being a match for Duan Lingtian. Lei Zhang. This name sounds quite familiar. Zhang Yan frowned. 986. Izumo sect, Zanbei reminded. In the Northern Desert, the three second-rate forces, Izumo sect, Anicha sect, and North Nether sect, were undoubtedly at the highest position. As a member of the many third-rate forces in the Northern Desert, although there was not a lot of interaction with the second-rate forces, the third-rate forces people would still, to some extent, hear about some of the things going on in the second-rate forces. Lei Zhang, Izumo sect. The moment Zanbei reminded him, Zhang Yan finally pieced the puzzle together. Within seconds, shock clouded his face, and his eyes narrowed as he muttered, "Don't tell me this Lei Zhang is that strongest powerhouse among the current younger generation in Izumo sect." Immediately afterward, Zhang Yan looked at Duan Lingtian. All he could feel was a chill that ran down his spine. This Duan Lingtian's strength has risen to what level now? He can even kill the Lei Zhang from Izumo sect. He had long heard that Lei Zhang was the strongest person among the current young generation in Izumo sect. According to rumors, Lei Zhang's cultivation base had already made a breakthrough to the 4th level void transformation, and he had even comprehended the 4th level advanced fire concept. He could also be considered as one of the very best young powerhouses in the entire Northern Desert. It was far from what he himself could compare to. However, right now, such a strong young powerhouse had just been killed by Duan Lingtian. For a moment, Zhang Yan could not help but be consumed with shock by Duan Lingtian's strength. Apart from feeling shocked, he also broke out in cold sweat for him as well. Duan Lingtian really has balls. How dare he kill that Lei Zhang? It's said that not only was Lei Zhang the most powerful person among the current young generation in Izumo sect, he was also the direct disciple of the martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect. Killing a martial monarch powerhouse's disciple in front of so many people, Zhang Yan could basically see what was going to happen to Duan Lingtian in the future. Duan Lingtian actually killed Lei Zhang, the strongest person among the current young generation in Izumo sect. Duan Lingtian has already announced that he's leaving our five-element sect. Nangong Chen, Nangong Yi, Tan Huan, and Tian Zhen, who had rushed to the martial emperor's secret treasure in succession, were taken by surprise when they heard of the news from the other five-element sect's disciples. Although Nangong Chen remained cold and aloof as usual, the dread that rose from the bottom of his heart could be seen in his eyes. Duan Lingtian, who was in the limelight, ignored the gazes from the other people and immediately returned to stand beside Feng Tianwu. His face was solemn as he said through voice transmission, "Tianwu, the power in your body doesn't seem to be very stable. Previously, when you tried to mobilize and display the fire profundity, I could clearly sense that it's not under your control at all. Apart from that, if you cast your fire profundity, it might also set off the energy of the fire spirit body in your body prematurely and prompt it to erupt before the time is right. At that time, your life might be in jeopardy." When he reached this part of the sentence, a hint of worry was apparent in Duan Lingtian's eyes. Feng Tianwu was enveloped by a sense of warmth when she saw the concern in Duan Lingtian. Her delicate face was flushed as she answered softly and obediently, "Big brother Duan, don't you worry. I won't use my fire profundity unless it's necessary." "All right." When Duan Lingtian heard her reply, he instantly felt relieved. As long as Feng Tianwu did not forcefully mobilize and cast her fire profundity, the fire spirit body's energy in her body would not erupt. In the meantime, Duan Lingtian looked around and noticed that there were many familiar faces on the scene now, such as Zhang Yan, Nangong Chen, Nangong Yi, Tan Huan, Tian Zhen, and the other disciples of Five-Element Sect, Empyrean Temple, Blade Sect, and also the Emotion-Severing Sect. It's a pity that Chen Wei could not reach here alive. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of Chen Wei, he could not help but let out a deep sigh. Looks like the show I put on earlier is somewhat effective, huh? When Duan Lingtian cast a glance at the group of young powerhouses in his surroundings, he noticed the majority of the people had an intense hint of fear when they looked at him. Even Xu Qing and Zhuo Yu, the strongest people among the current young generation from North Nether Sect and Anicha Sect respectively, also had hints of dread in their eyes when they looked at him. "Zanbei, you said earlier that you're interested in the profundity fragment in my hands, didn't you? Do you still want to try taking it away from me?" As though he was reminded by something, Duan Lingtian looked toward Zanbei with a half-smile playing on his face. The instant the words left his mouth, everyone present at the scene immediately shifted their attention to Zanbei. The monk from the Empyrean Temple instantly became the center of attention. "Haha, bald donkey, I thought you wanted to snatch the profundity fragment from Duan Lingtian earlier. Due to some interruption, you didn't get what you wish for. Now that nobody is interfering anymore, why don't you go ahead and snatch it from him now?" Recalling the scene earlier, Huang Daniu looked at Zanbei and burst out laughing with a ridiculing look on his face. "What, senior brother wants to snatch the profundity fragment from Duan Lingtian earlier?" The few Empyrean Temple's disciples, who were still alive to see the light of day, stood gazing at each other. All of them could see the shock and disbelief in each other's eyes. At this time, they only had one thought in their minds. Is senior brother Zantian even sane? When Duan Lingtian shifted his attention over to him, Zanbei immediately knew that thing was going to take a bad turn. After Duan Lingtian repeated the words that Zanbei himself announced before this, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch instantly. What a joke! Previously, he said such words because he thought his strength could overpower Duan Lingtian. However, the moment he saw the strength that Duan Lingtian displayed, he immediately dismissed his thoughts of dueling with Duan Lingtian. He did not want to invite trouble for himself. "Duan Lingtian, let us draw an end to the promise that we made with each other. I acknowledge that I'm no match for you." Zanbei took a deep breath. He no longer cared about his pride or image. He had no regards for any shame now. Duan Lingtian stared intensely Zanbei even though he did not plan to push this matter any further. Although he was not particularly fond of this little monk from the Empyrean temple, he did not harbor any bad feelings toward him at all. As for the words the other party said, he did not take it to heart at all. If it was the other way around, and Zanbei was the one in his position with the profundity fragment in his hands, he would have said the same things as well if he was Zanbei. After all, as long as one was a martial artist, one would definitely be interested in the profundity fragment. Duan Lingtian, after you leave the martial emperor's secret treasure, run as far as you can go. Since you've announced that you're leaving the Five-Element sect in front of so many people, Azumo sect would most likely not do anything to the Five-Element sect due to their pride, but you're a different story. A concerned voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears through voice transmission. In order to avenge the two brothers, Lei Zhang and Lei Jun, Azumo sect will definitely kill you at all cost. However, it's fortunate that the entrance that you entered is different from ours. Otherwise, you won't even get a chance to flee. The owner of the voice transmission was none other than the Anicha sect's disciple, Peng Bao. Duan Lingtian shifted his attention to Peng Bao, who was staring at him with a look of concern. Warmth spread out from his heart immediately, and he responded with a smile, "Don't worry, I know what to do." Just as he said, he knew what to do. Since he dared to kill Lei Zhang, this meant that he had already prepared a way out for himself. Leaving the Five-Element sect was merely the first step. Naturally, the most important reason for him leaving the Five-Element sect was because he did not want to bring trouble to them due to his own matter. He could leave this place by himself but not the Five-Element sect. If Five-Element sect was annihilated by Azumo sect because of him, he would not be able to feel at ease over it. Is this palace the one that was left behind by the martial emperor? The place where he passed away? Without warning, somebody asked out loud. Everyone's attention, including Duan Lingtian, immediately shifted away from Zanbei and landed on the enormous palace one by one. Each of them was beaming brightly as they looked at it. The reason they came all the way here was none other than this palace that was left behind by the martial emperor. Casting aside the other treasures that were hidden in this palace, just the 3 profundity fragments in the remnant of the martial emperor's body alone was more than enough to make people go crazy over them. One of them was a freaking emperor stage profundity fragment, for goodness sake. The sides of this palace are surrounded by dense killing formations. How are we going to go in? Duan Lingtian extended his spiritual energy out. As soon as it enveloped the palace, he immediately noticed the endless killing formations that were laid upon it. These killing formations had a power that was not any weaker than the killing formation at entrance No. 2. Profundity fragment. Although Duan Lingtian was cautious about it, a Blade sect's disciple suddenly cried out in a deep voice and rushed out toward the palace in an attempt to be the first person to enter the palace. As the saying went, the early bird gets the worm. Perhaps, in his opinion, the first person to enter the palace would have a greater chance of finding the martial emperor's body and obtaining the profundity fragment in his body. Swoosh! The Blade sect's disciple was extremely fast. Within seconds, he arrived before the palace and charged straight toward the palace entrance. Haha, the Blade sect's disciple laughed excitedly when he stood outside the palace. Like a bolt of lightning, he rushed forward to the entrance. Upon seeing the Blade sect's disciple making his move, the other young powerhouses from each sect was itching to make their moves as well. However, what happened next immediately took them by horror and rooted them to the same spot. As the Blade sect's disciple flew out, before he even came close to the palace entrance, he was stopped by some invisible force that prevented him from going near it. Boom! In the next second, under the watchful eyes of the others, the Blade sect's disciple exploded mysteriously and transformed into a shower of blood and flesh that rained in front of the palace entrance. It was completely dazzling to the eyes. Gasp! 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 Comma. Upon seeing this, all that could be heard at the scene was a series of loud gasps. It's an inscription formation. Soon, people began to realize what was going on, and the looks they cast toward the enormous entrance changed instantly. At this moment, the way they looked at the palace was no longer the look they used when they saw some treasure. Instead, it was like they were looking at a ferocious, vicious and horrifying monster as fear rose up from the bottom of their hearts. There's killing formations around the palace. How are we going to go in? Many young powerhouses frowned and looked deeply troubled. Although the treasure was just right before their eyes, the main problem was they did not know whether they could make it in alive. Somebody analyzed and voiced out his opinion. Since the martial emperor left the palace here and asked us to enter to take the 3 profundity fragments from his body, there's no reason for him to shut us off outside completely. 987. Indeed. Since the martial emperor left this place behind with his body in there, theoretically, it's impossible that he didn't want us to go in. Many people agreed with that. Just when everyone was at their wits' end about the killing formation before their eyes, Duan Lingtian realized something when he released his spiritual energy. He found out that after the Blade Sect's disciple was killed by the explosion from the killing formation that covered the palace, the killing formation seemed to have accomplished its duty and gradually faded away before it vanished entirely. Could it be, the killing formation the martial emperor set up outside the palace could be broken with a blood sacrifice from a human's life? Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows as he secretly speculated. Since he had merged with the rebirth martial emperor's memories, he was no stranger to breaking a formation with a blood sacrifice. As long as the inscription master who set up the killing formation was willing, the killing formation could be broken with a blood sacrifice at any time. As long as somebody died from the killing formation would automatically be broken. Welcome, all of you lucky young people. When Duan Lingtian was lost in his thoughts, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice entered everyone's ears. All of them were stunned by the voice. A polyphony formation was activated since the killing formation was broken. Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy figured it out in just an instant. It's the martial emperor's voice. At this moment, the group of young powerhouses present at the scene identified the owner of the voice. They had heard that voice a couple of times ever since they entered the martial emperor's secret treasure. Soon after, the martial emperor's message proceeded to play from the polyphony formation. The blood sacrifice is complete, and the killing formation has been broken. Lucky young people, all of you can now enter. There was no emotion in the martial emperor's voice, it was extremely detached. The blood sacrifice is complete. When the group of young powerhouses present at the scene heard what the martial emperor said, they were initially stunned before they figured out what had happened. Their facial expression gradually changed. That means, the Blade Sect's disciple broke the killing formation with his own life. Based on what the martial emperor said in his message, it's clear that someone must die to break the killing formation with a blood sacrifice. Luckily, I didn't rush in. Otherwise, I could have been the one who performed the blood sacrifice. That's too brutal. A life has to be sacrificed to break the killing formation outside the palace. Perhaps the inside of the palace is filled with danger. The young powerhouses present at the scene discussed among themselves. There was fear between their eyebrows, they feared the possible dangers that existed in the palace that the martial emperor left behind. Even Zhuo Yu and Shu Qing did not dare to move as they pleased after listening to the martial emperor's message. Let's go. Duan Lingtian smiled lightly at Feng Tianwu before he asked Huang Daniu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyang to come along. He took the lead by dashing in after he nodded at Peng Bao. Feng Tianwu followed closely behind, she trusted Duan Lingtian wholeheartedly. As long as Duan Lingtian was by her side, she was not afraid even if they had to risk their lives. To her, as long as she could die by her lover's side, there would be no regrets even if she died. Let's go. Huang Daniu and the other two did not delay this time as they followed closely after Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. Duan Lingtian descended from the sky and cleared the path with spiritual energy. He dashed toward the palace entrance directly, and soon after, he arrived before the big and magnificent door. Duan Lingtian stood before the door and extended both his hands. He pressed them on the door and exerted his strength. Rumble, 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 single quote, comma. At this moment, the door slowly opened. It was a glorious scene. Let's go. When the door opened, Duan Lingtian called out to the four people around him and took the lead to dash in. Whoosh, 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 single quote, comma. Feng Tianwu and the other three followed behind Duan Lingtian. They vanished behind the door that was ajar and disappeared before the eyes of everyone who was outside. They're fine. Many people's eyes lit up suddenly. Let's go in, too. Nangong Yi raised his eyebrows and entered the palace through the wide-open door with Nangong Chen. Let's go. Both Zhang Yan and Zhan Bei led the emotion-severing sect and Empyrean Temple's disciples who survived into the palace. Subsequently, Peng Bao, Zhuo Yu, and Shu Qing led the Anicha sect and North Nether's sect disciples into the palace. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian was the first one to enter the palace. As soon as he entered, his spiritual energy discovered the place was densely filled with an inscription formation's aura. There was an inscription formation that encompassed the ground and air wherever he went. It's the illusory realm formation. Duan Lingtian halted his movement. His face became solemn as he mumbled, it's the illusory realm formation. He realized the inscription formation that he noticed earlier was the illusory realm formation. They had to pass through this if they wanted to enter the palace. As soon as they entered the illusory realm formation, they would enter an illusory realm. It was out of their control where they would end up after passing through the illusory realm. Illusory realm formation. Feng Tianwu and the other three who were next to Duan Lingtian heard his words and could not help but feel surprised. They did not doubt what Duan Lingtian had said at all. Yes, it's the illusory realm formation. Duan Lingtian nodded and said with all seriousness, this illusory realm formation isn't harmful at all. It's similar to the illusory formation that we experienced earlier. It'll just separate us, and we'll have to look for the treasures in this palace on our own. The illusory formation was an abbreviation for the illusory realm formation. We'll have to pass through it if we want to enter the palace. I'm afraid we'll have to part ways again, Duan Lingtian said. Huang Daniu looked at Duan Lingtian and said reluctantly, what the hell was that martial emperor trying to do? He keeps wanting to separate us. I want to be with you. There are so many benefits when I'm with you. How would I know what the hell he was thinking? Duan Lingtian was a little speechless when he looked at Huang Daniu complaining to him, and he rolled his eyes in irritation. Everyone, please be careful, Zhang Shouyang said. All right, Su Li nodded. Tian Wu. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Tianwu next to him and solemnly said through voice transmission, unless it's absolutely necessary, don't ever use and perform fire profundity again. Otherwise, the fire spirit body's energy in your body will erupt and harm your life. Yes. Feng Tianwu understood the concern in Duan Lingtian's words and revealed a rare smile on her gorgeous face that could win many people's hearts. At this moment, Duan Lingtian became a little distracted. When Feng Tianwu noticed Duan Lingtian was distracted by her, both of her beautiful cheeks were flushed. They were so red that they looked as though they were going to drip blood since she was extremely shy. Duan Lingtian looked away, embarrassed, as he awkwardly rubbed his nose. He then quickly changed the subject. You guys can go in first. Let's go find the martial emperor's body. I'll be rich if I find it first, Huang Daniu said excitedly before he dashed in. Almost at the same time when Huang Daniu dashed in, his body was shrouded in black fog that appeared out of thin air. He then disappeared before Duan Lingtian and the others' eyes. He had officially opened the illusory formation. Duan Lingtian, I'll go ahead first. Su Li went into the illusory formation after speaking to Duan Lingtian. Soon after, Zhang Shouyang followed suit. Big brother Duan, please be careful too, Feng Tianwu said to Duan Lingtian. She only entered the illusory formation after hearing Duan Lingtian's response. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, another two silhouettes appeared next to Duan Lingtian. He could not help but use his peripheral vision to look at them. Duan Lingtian recognized the duo in just one glance. They were Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi. Duan Lingtian nodded at the both of them and considered that his greeting. Without waiting for the duo to respond, he dashed into the black fog and vanished before the Nangong twins' eyes. It's the illusory formation again. Nangong Yi frowned when he saw the familiar black fog before them. That means the both of us will be separated again. Earlier when they had just entered, he was separated from Nangong Chen due to the illusory formation surrounding the stone staircase by the side of the platform. They only reunited again after venturing into the martial emperor's secret treasure for half a month. Even that was the doing of the telepathy between the both of them. As twin brothers, as long as the distance between Nangong Yi and Nangong Chen was not too far apart, they could sense each other's rough location. Telepathy, Nangong Chen reminded while keeping his cool. Yes, telepathy. How can I forget such an important thing? This palace is just the size of a palm. With our telepathy, we'll be able to sense each other's location in an instant. Nangong Yi's eyes lit up after being reminded by Nangong Chen. Idiot, Nangong Chen responded coolly and dashed into the illusory formation surrounded by black fog and disappeared before Nangong Yi could say anything. You're the idiot, Nangong Yi rebuked with irritation written on his face. Soon, Zhang Yan and Zan Bei had also arrived. It's the illusory formation again. Although they were surprised at the illusory formation before their eyes, the duo did not delay any further and dashed into it directly and was shrouded within the illusory formation. Later on, the Five-Element Sect, Blade Sect, Empyrean Temple and Emotion Severing Sect's disciples entered one by one. Disciples from the 6 forces who entered from entrance No. 2 were only left with disciples from the 4 forces that survived. Meanwhile, all of the disciples from the other 2 forces were killed. As the group from entrance No. 2 entered the illusory formation, the group who came from entrance number 1 arrived later in the palace one by one. They were led by Shu Qing and Zuo Yu. Let's go. Shu Qing called out to the 3 remaining disciples from North Nether Sect and dashed into the illusory formation. Duan Lingtian, I really hope that you have something you've yet to display when you used your spirit weapon earlier. Otherwise, if I find out the 1600 ancient horned dragon's strength with the help of the spirit weapon is all you got, I'll definitely kill you. Zuo Yu's eyes gleamed coldly after Shu Qing and the others went in. Until now, Zuo Yu could not forget about the profundity fragment in Duan Lingtian's hands. 988. If Duan Lingtian had revealed all he had and only had 1600 ancient horned dragon's strength with the help of a spirit weapon, Zuo Yu was completely confident he could kill Duan Lingtian. With his comprehension at the 4th level void transformation concept and cultivation base at the 4th level void transformation, his strength was equivalent to more than 1620 ancient horned dragon's strength. He would be ashamed to be called the most powerful young man in Anicha sect if he could not kill Duan Lingtian when he had 20 more ancient horned dragon's strength than what Duan Lingtian possessed. Duan Lingtian seemed to have performed a few high-level concepts when he fought Lei Zhang. Zuo Yu's eyes gleamed when he recalled the scene of Duan Lingtian fighting Lei Zhang and thought to himself secretly, perhaps among the 1200 ancient horned dragon's strength that he displayed without using a spirit weapon, concepts contributed more to his strength than origin energy did. That means even if he gets a boost from a spirit weapon, it wouldn't be much. Zuo Yu became even more certain of that fact when he thought about it. Now the only thing that's left is to confirm my speculation. As soon as I determine Duan Lingtian's full strength is equivalent to 1600 ancient horned dragon's strength, I'll kill him before the people from Azumo sect can kill him. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was oblivious to the thoughts running through Zuo Yu's mind. Otherwise, he would definitely be shocked by his speculation. Just as Zuo Yu had speculated, Duan Lingtian's strength was largely occupied by concepts and less by origin energy. 1600 ancient horned dragon's strength was the current limit that Duan Lingtian could perform. It was a grassland earlier, and now it's a desert. Duan Lingtian was in a vast and endless desert in the illusory formation. Sand filled the endless desert, there were no greens or blues to be seen at all. Young man, head to the east. Just as Duan Lingtian was looking around and did not know which way to go, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice entered his ears. It was a message from the martial emperor who left the secret treasure behind. To the east. After hearing the hint, Duan Lingtian figured out the direction of his destination. He leapt into the air and flew to the east at an alarming speed. Duan Lingtian thought it would be similar to the previous time when he arrived at the destination directly by going straight. However, he soon realized that it was a silly thought. Young man, head north. Young man, head west. Young man, head southwest. The martial emperor's message that played from the polyphony formation, combined with the illusory formation, entered Duan Lingtian's ears clearly, and he rushed here and there. Finally, Duan Lingtian arrived at the end. Where is that martial emperor leading me to? I had to change directions so many times. Questions filled Duan Lingtian's head as he walked out of the illusory formation. As soon as he walked out of the illusory formation, a long and spacious corridor appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. There was an entire row of stone room on both sides of the corridor. Sculptures of a human or a beast were presented on each of the stone room's entrance. It was disconcerting since they looked very lifelike. These stone rooms. Duan Lingtian was curious, so he approached the first stone room and looked in to see what was inside. In just a glance, he saw there was a stone platform in the stone room that could not be considered as spacious. There was a sword that was stabbed into the stone platform. The sword seemed extraordinary. A grade 2 spirit sword. Duan Lingtian possessed the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memories and inherited the Rebirth Martial Emperor's eyes of a royal grade weapon craftsman. He could tell a spirit weapon's grade just by looking at it, while ordinary people would have to test it to determine the grade. There's a grade 2 spirit sword in here. Duan Lingtian was momentarily stunned before he stepped into the stone room. Although this sword is a grade 2 spirit weapon, the material that was used is great, it's worth keeping. Duan Lingtian's interest grew, and he prepared to enter the stone room to grab the grade 2 spirit sword. However, his expression changed drastically as soon as he stepped into the stone room. Whoosh! An ear-piercing whistling noise entered his ears almost immediately, and a heavy fist followed suit. To be exact, it was a stone fist. The human sculpture that was standing at the stone room's entrance moved. It punched at Duan Lingtian as quick as lightning as soon as he stepped into the stone room. A wave of blue energy surrounded the human sculpture's fist, the magnificent energy rumbled and seemed capable of destroying everything. However, Duan Lingtian lifted his arm with lightning speed, and the human sculpture's stone fist was unfortunately caught by him easily without any obstacles. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian had a calm expression on his face, and he did not feel any pressure at all. Bang! At this moment, the human sculpture moved again. With a loud thud, its foot stepped out and landed on the ground. Subsequently, the other foot extended like a lightning and attacked Duan Lingtian's lower body. The blue wave turned rampant like a terrifying ocean wave that swept toward Duan Lingtian. Meanwhile, the heaven and earth energy rumbled above its head and eventually formed 180 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. That meant the human sculpture's strength was equivalent to 300 ancient horned dragons' strength. 7th level void interpretation, 1st level advanced water concept. Although the human sculpture's speed was fast, in Duan Lingtian's eyes, it was as slow as a turtle that it was not even worth mentioning. Duan Lingtian kicked a foot out casually that only contained origin energy and broke the human sculpture's leg that was closing in on him. Bang! The human sculpture's leg broke, it was thrown out and smashed on the ground. It had currently turned into a pile of gravels and powder. Bang! At the same time, Duan Lingtian shook his hand and punched his fist out. The glorious energy swept toward the human sculpture and smashed it completely into powder. At this moment, 10 origin stones and a blue fragment appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. The blue fragment was naturally the water concept fragment. The inscription formation in the human sculpture was hidden deeply. I didn't use my spiritual energy to investigate earlier, so I didn't manage to detect anything at all, Duan Lingtian mumbled. 10 mid-grade origin stones, and a first-level water concept fragment, the reward isn't too bad. Duan Lingtian was quite satisfied with the reward he received from just a casual punch and kick. After taking the grade 2 spirit sword away from the stone room, Duan Lingtian proceeded to the next stone room. There was a medicinal pill bottle in the next stone room. I wonder what medicinal pill that is. Feeling curious, Duan Lingtian ignored the beast sculpture at the stone room's entrance and dashed into the stone room in an instant. He grabbed the medicinal pill bottle immediately. He realized there were 3 medicinal pills in the bottle after opening it. Grade 2 life recovery pill. The purity isn't even at 70%, this is trash. Duan Lingtian then tossed the medicinal pill bottle on the ground as he frowned. The 3 grade 2 life recovery pills in there were nothing to him. People would definitely condemn Duan Lingtian for being spoiled if they witnessed this. Those were grade 2 life recovery pills. They were high-grade healing medicinal pills. Not any ordinary person could simply own it. However, to Duan Lingtian, these grade 2 life recovery pills with a purity that was less than 70% were trash. Trash that was not worth mentioning at all. He had integrated with the lifelong medicine refining methods and experience from the rebirth martial emperor and had managed to refine a grade 1 pill fire. He had already become a respectable grade 1 alchemist. As long as he had sufficient medicinal herbs, let alone high-purity grade 2 life recovery pills, he could even refine high-purity grade 1 life recovery pills confidently without any pressure. However, the beast sculpture that was watching the stone room did not think the 3 grade 2 life recovery pills were trash like Duan Lingtian did. Almost at the moment when Duan Lingtian tossed the medicinal pill bottle away, the beast sculpture at the stone room entrance moved. Fire surged from its body as it pounced toward Duan Lingtian. The beast sculpture's ability was similar to the human sculpture earlier. It was nothing to Duan Lingtian. He did not even need to use his concept as he swept his 3rd level void transformation origin energy together with the energy in his body toward the sculpture. Bang, 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 single quote, comma. The beast sculpture destroyed by Duan Lingtian turned into gravels and turned into a tiny hill. Earlier, Duan Lingtian managed to obtain 10 mid-grade origin stones and a first-level fire concept fragment from the human sculpture with his lightning-fast hands. Is there any treasure that's more exciting in here? Duan Lingtian swept through the corridor. All of the sculptures at the stone rooms, entrances were destroyed by him, and some of the stone rooms were also messed up. However, he only managed to obtain some grade 2 and grade 1 spirit weapons. As for medicinal pills, he threw all of them away. Those included precious healing medicinal pills such as grade 1 life recovery pills. He threw them away like they were trash. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, grade 2 and grade 1 spirit weapons could be reforged even if their quality were not good. However, it was a different story for medicinal pills. Medicinal pills with low purity were an eyesore to him. He did not even bother to put grade 1 medicinal pills into his spatial ring. I've arrived at the end. Without noticing, Duan Lingtian realized that he had arrived at the corridor's end. Along the way, the sculptures at each of the stone room's entrance were getting progressively stronger. However, when faced with his overwhelming strength, even sculptures that were more powerful could barely take his attack and were destroyed by him one by one. There's one more stone room here. When Duan Lingtian arrived at the end of the corridor, he saw a stone room before him. It was an isolated stone room. Duan Lingtian headed in there without any hesitation. Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian sensed a faint aura from an inscription formation. Congratulations, young man. You've arrived at the 1 in 4 stone room. If you're the only one left in the halo after an hour, you can enter the 1 in 4 stone room and receive the treasure that you deserve. 1 in 4 stone room. The edge of Duan Lingtian's lips twitched when he heard the stone room's name. 989. Halo. What halo? Duan Lingtian looked around, but he did not see any halo the martial emperor mentioned in his message. However, at this moment, he noticed a light shooting inside the stone room out of nowhere, and the light turned into a halo as it landed. All of a sudden, his entire being was shrouded in the halo. If I'm the only one left in the halo after an hour, I'll be able to enter that something called 1 in 4 stone room and obtain the treasures in there. Since Duan Lingtian found the halo the martial emperor mentioned, he quickly switched his attention elsewhere. Soon after, Duan Lingtian noticed that apart from the corridor that he entered from, there were corridors in the other 3 directions in the 1 in 4 stone room. Could there be another 3 people? At this moment, Duan Lingtian could faintly guess how the name 1 in 4 stone room came about. 1 in 4 meant forfeit 3 people among the 4 while the remaining 1 would enter. Seems like when there's only 1 person left in the halo after an hour, the 1 in 4 stone room will officially open. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure that out. The other 3 people, I wonder who they are. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he stared at the other 3 corridors. It's obvious their ability isn't powerful since they've yet to arrive until now. It's impossible for them to be Shu Qing, Zuo Yu or Peng Bao. Luckily I managed to run fast. Otherwise, I would have been killed by that stupid stone man. At that time, my fame would be completely destroyed. All of a sudden, Duan Lingtian heard a loud voice coming from one of the corridors, and it caused the expression on his face to turn extremely odd. What a coincidence! A half-smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's lips as he looked at that corridor. Meanwhile, a big and strong silhouette appeared before his eyes. Duan Lingtian. As the big young man walked out of the corridor while he was complaining, he noticed the purple-clad young man standing nearby. A shocked expression appeared on his face. Danyu, we really have fate. Duan Lingtian could not help but smile when he saw the strong young man. The person who came was none other than Huang Danyu. Haha, Duan Lingtian, seems like my luck is good. Even God is helping me, it's God's will that I met you here. Let's go, help me kill those stupid stone men. I want those spirit weapons and bottles of medicinal pills, Huang Danyu said as his eyes lit up. Naturally, Duan Lingtian knew which stone men Huang Danyu was talking about. They were those human sculptures in the corridor that he destroyed earlier. Those sculptures were nothing to him, but some of them were invincible to Huang Danyu. Let's go. Duan Lingtian figured there was still almost an hour until the 1 in 4 stone room opened, so he followed Huang Danyu and entered the corridor that Huang Danyu came from. It was a killing spree again. Duan Lingtian destroyed each and every human and beast sculptures that Huang Danyu could not defeat. Meanwhile, all Huang Danyu did was sit back and relax as he picked up the spirit weapons and medicinal pills from the stone rooms one by one. He was smiling like a kid. Danyu, there's something I need to tell you. When Duan Lingtian saw how happy Huang Danyu was, Duan Lingtian planned to pour cold water on him so that he would wake up from his daydream. Yay! Huang Danyu looked at Duan Lingtian suspiciously, but the smile on his face remained. There's an isolated stone room at the end of this corridor, only 1 person can enter, including me and you. There'll be a total of 4 people joining in the fight. Duan Lingtian proceeded to tell him whatever he knew about the stone room. Damn, what kind of shitty luck do I have that I was arranged to fight you? I wonder who the other ill-fated people are apart from me. Huang Danyu could not help but curse when he heard what Duan Lingtian said. Resentment was written on his face when he spoke. Danyu, you sure change really fast. who was the one who said he has great luck that even God helped him to meet me here. Duan Lingtian looked at Huang Daniyu and smiled wryly. He remembered everything Huang Daniyu said when they met earlier. Well, I didn't know about this special stone room when I said that. I'm so unlucky to be arranged to fight a freak like you. Huang Daniyu forced a smile. Soon, he returned to normal. Luckily there are 2 more ill-fated people accompanying me. Let's go, let's see who the other 2 ill-fated guys are. When Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniyu returned to the 1 in 4 stone room, they noticed there were already 2 young men standing there, and the atmosphere was tense. The 2 young men stared at each other, and tension was rife between them. They shifted their attention when Duan Lingtian appeared. One glance was enough to change their expressions completely. Duan Lingtian. One of them gulped as his face turned pale while the other did not fare any better. When he looked at Duan Lingtian, there was fear in his eyes as though he had encountered some catastrophic beast. No fun, I thought it would be people from the second-rate forces, it's just the both of you. Huang Daniyu, who was next to Duan Lingtian, could not help but feel a little disappointed when he saw the duo. Duan Lingtian smiled as he shook his head. Naturally, he knew why Huang Daniyu said that. He wanted to witness those second-rate Foss's disciples beaten up before his eyes. However, who would have known the duo who were arranged to fight them were not disciples from second-rate forces? Duan Lingtian had a little impression on the 2 people before him. One of them was an emotion-severing sect's disciple while the other was a monk disciple from the Empyrean Temple. So, are the 2 of you going to fight me? Duan Lingtian walked to the halo surrounding the isolated stone room slowly as he looked at the both of them with narrowed eyes. He wore a smile that did not look like a smile on his face. No, I'm not doing that, I'll leave right away. The both of them waved their hands clumsily and retreated from the halo in the isolated room as though they were running for their lives. They then disappeared into the corridors they came from. That's not funny. They encountered the person who killed the most powerful person in Izumo sect, a second-rate force. How would they dare to fight him? All of a sudden, the only 2 left outside the 1 in 4 stone room were Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniyu. Huang Daniyu quickly retreated from the halo since he knew his place. Duan Lingtian, you're going to be rich this time. The treasures in this isolated something called the 1 in 4 stone room must be extraordinary. Huang Daniyu looked at Duan Lingtian enviously as he stood outside the halo. Duan Lingtian smiled and did not say much. However, his eyes that were gleaming brightly revealed the anticipation he felt for the treasures in the stone room. Time went by silently. Soon, an hour had passed. FWAH, 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 FWAH. As the halo surrounding the stone room flashed, a light shield rose around the halo. It then shrouded Duan Lingtian together with the 1 in 4 stone room as though it was forming an isolated space. Duan Lingtian detected what the light shield was with his spiritual energy the second it appeared. He reminded Huang Daniyu instantly, Daniyu, don't touch the light shield, it's a killing formation. Huang Daniyu nodded solemnly before he spoke up, the stone rooms opened, go in quick. When Duan Lingtian heard Huang Daniyu's reminder, Duan Lingtian realized a stone door had appeared at the side of the 1 in 4 room that was initially closed. The stone door was pushed away and was wide open. After saying goodbye to Huang Daniyu, Duan Lingtian dashed into the stone room. The instant Duan Lingtian entered, the stone door at the side of the stone room closed again, effectively trapping Duan Lingtian inside. So unlucky, I'm completely out of luck. Huang Daniyu shook his head and left as he turned around. He left to look for opportunities that belonged to him. As Duan Lingtian passed through the stone door that was wide open, he arrived in a spacious stone room. Looking at the stone room, it was not too different from the stone rooms he had gone into earlier. If he had to state a difference, the only difference was there was no spirit weapon nor were there any medicinal pill bottles with medicinal pills in the room. Suddenly, a faint noise appeared behind Duan Lingtian. The noise changed his expression completely. When he finally responded to the noise, Duan Lingtian realized the stone door behind him was closed again. He was locked in this airtight stone room with no ventilation. Just when Duan Lingtian was planning to leave by breaking the door, the noise sounded again. Single quote, comma. The loud noise came from above his head, and Duan Lingtian could not help but look as he lifted his head. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian saw the stone room's ceiling was moving automatically. It was opened, and a path out of the stone room was opened for him. Congratulations, young one, you're one step closer to my body. At this moment, the martial emperor's voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. His spiritual energy detected the polyphony formation was activated in the stone room when the ceiling moved. One step closer. Initially, Duan Lingtian did not understand the martial emperor's message entirely. Soon, he recalled the 1 in 4 experience that he went through earlier and seemed to understand something. It seems like when the 1 in 4 was happening on my side, so I can proceed to the next level. There are other 1 in 4 going on in other places at the same time. Only the ones who manage to walk to the end will see the martial emperor's body and get the 3 profundity fragments in his body. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to figure that out. The treasures in this stone room. When Duan Lingtian realized he was not locked in the stone room, he looked at the treasures on the stone platform nearby in relief. It was a plant that was planted in a pot. It was entirely green, and it was sparkling with a faint green light. To be exact, it was a herb. What is this? Duan Lingtian realized how extraordinary this herb was when he saw the sparkling green light on it. However, he could not figure out what it was. The only thing he could do was to browse through the rebirth martial emperor's memories for related information. It's the immortal spirit herb. Duan Lingtian soon found the answer. It was an answer that shocked him and made him rejoice. 990. Immortal spirit herb, it's the immortal spirit herb. Ha 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 ha, Shang Quan's Dantian will be healed. Shang Quan's Dantian will be healed. Duan Lingtian's joy was written all over his face. He was laughing to the point that he had lost his usual composure. There were excitement and joy in his laughter. Shang Quan followed him wherever he went back in the days when he was still in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. He did his best to serve Duan Lingtian without a single word of complaint. He even helped him extricate himself from many critical situations back in those days so that he remained safe and sound. A few years later, when they were at the Eternal Jade restaurant in the ancient city of Everlast of Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, Shang Quan had his Dantian destroyed by a void initiation martial artist when he was protecting Duan Lingtian. Since then, he left Duan Lingtian and returned to his hometown. Throughout the years, Duan Lingtian did not forget about Shang Quan's Dantian being destroyed, not even for a second did he forget about that matter. In fact, he felt guiltier as time passed. He felt like he owed Shang Quan too much. The last time he returned to his hometown after the Darken Dynasty martial competition ended, he did not visit Shang Quan at all due to the guilt he felt. At that time, he had made up his mind. The next time he met Shang Quan again would be the time he healed his Dantian. Initially, I thought that I'll only obtain the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill when I find the rebirth martial emperor's great treasure to help Shang Quan heal his Dantian. I didn't expect to see the immortal spirit herb here. Duan Lingtian's eyes revealed a hint of excitement when he looked at the plant with 3 leaves before his eyes. Even in the rebirth martial emperor's memory, the immortal spirit herb only existed in legends. People had only heard of it but had never seen it before. The immortal spirit herb was a legendary medicinal herb. Duan Lingtian had to give credit to the rebirth martial emperor's memory for being able to identify the immortal spirit herb today. Although the rebirth martial emperor had never seen the immortal spirit herb before, he had heard many legends about the immortal spirit herb and knew some of its characteristics. The immortal spirit herb had straight roots and leaves with a green glow. The most crucial part is the pattern on its leaves that was completely different from usual herbs. The usual herbs would have a straight line in the middle while its pattern branched out on both sides. However, the pattern on the immortal spirit herb was a spiral, and a green glow spread out from the middle. It gave off an extraordinary feeling. That was how Duan Lingtian identified the plant with 3 leaves as the immortal spirit herb that he had always wanted. Although he knew of the immortal spirit herb's existence in the past and that it could help Shang Quan heal his Dantian, the immortal spirit herb was too ethereal and unreal that he did not dream he would obtain it one day. He thought he would have to find the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill or the royal grade resurrection pill from the great treasure the rebirth martial emperor left behind to help Shang Quan heal his Dantian. With this immortal spirit herb, I don't have to wait until I find the great treasure the martial emperor left behind to retrieve the resurrection pill to help Shang Quan heal his Dantian. Duan Lingtian was overjoyed as he looked at the immortal spirit herb before his eyes. There's a total of 3 leaves on the immortal spirit herb. I only need 1 to heal Shang Quan's Dantian. As for the remaining 2, I'll give 1 to Big Brother Zhang so that he can heal his wife's Dantian. Duan Lingtian came up with a plan as he looked at the immortal spirit herb before his eyes. Zhang Shouyang's wife, Wang Chong, also had her dantian damaged, and she could no longer cultivate. Perhaps Zhang Shouyang's current ability was nothing compared to him, but it was Zhang Shouyang who saved his life at the Eternal Jade restaurant in the ancient city of Everlast back then. Otherwise, he would not be able to achieve what he had achieved today. Therefore, he must return the favor by many folds due to the fact that Zhang Shouyang saved his life. Big brother Zhang will be very happy if he knows about this. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and put the immortal spirit herb away like a precious treasure. The immortal spirit herb was different from the usual herbs that wilted easily. The immortal spirit herb, as a legendary medicinal herb, would not wilt even if it was removed from the soil. Seems like I'll need to alter my plan a little after leaving the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. I must return to Darken Dynasty to heal Shangquan and Big Brother Zhang's wife's dantians. Only after that, I'll look for the great treasure the rebirth Martial Emperor left behind. Duan Lingtian thought to himself secretly. From the moment he killed Lei Zhang, he had planned to leave Five-Element Sect. He did not plan to stay in the northern desert as well. He would look for the great treasure the rebirth Martial Emperor left behind in his second life despite the fact that he had yet to identify the exact location of the treasure up until now. However, he would be able to identify the location as long as he found a rough map of Cloud Continent. He would then be able to retrieve the great treasure the rebirth Martial Emperor left behind. Now that he found the immortal spirit herb in the Martial Emperor's secret treasure by accident, it changed his plan. He decided there was no hurry to look for the great treasure the rebirth Martial Emperor left behind after he left the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. He would return to the Darken Dynasty first so that he could help Shangquan and Wang Chong heal their dantians. He would plan for the rest at a later date. I wonder what's up there. Duan Lingtian was pulled back to reality after putting the immortal spirit herb away. He looked at the ceiling that was wide open when he lifted his head. His eyes lit up, and he leapt into the air. Whoosh! In just an instant, Duan Lingtian leapt and arrived at another place as he left the 1-in-4 stone room beneath his feet. This looks like the other level of the central palace. Duan Lingtian looked around for a while and faintly speculated as his heart jolted. The central palace was the palace located in the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. It was also the place where the Martial Emperor who left this Martial Emperor's secret treasure behind ended his life, and where his body was located. Most of the young powerhouses, including Duan Lingtian, came for the 3 profundity fragments in the Martial Emperor's body. Especially the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment. One could imagine how precious it was since it was ranked as the top treasure in the entire Cloud Continent. Even if the person who obtained the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment could not use it personally, he could find a 9th-level Monarch Stage powerhouse who had comprehended the corresponding profundity and give it to him as a favor. That person could even get the 9th-level Monarch Stage powerhouse to swear on the 99 Heavenly Tribulation to protect him for life. As soon as he obtained the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment, breaking through to the Martial Emperor stage and becoming a Martial Emperor powerhouse was not difficult at all. In that case, it was equivalent to having a Martial Emperor powerhouse to depend on. Would that not mean that person would be invincible on the Cloud Continent since that person had a Martial Emperor powerhouse to depend on in the future? If I didn't remember it wrong, there are a total of 5 levels in this palace where the Martial Emperor powerhouse ended his life. Duan Lingtian pondered for a while. Although there were only 5 levels in the palace, the height of each level exceeded the height of normal palaces. Therefore, although there were only 5 levels in this palace, it seemed to be extraordinarily tall. Young one, welcome to the Qingfeng Palace's 2nd level. Since you managed to get here, you're worthy of knowing my honorific title. Martial Emperor Qingfeng is my honorific title. Just as Duan Lingtian took a step forward and realized that he had activated the polyphony formation once again, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice entered his ears. Qingfeng Palace. Martial Emperor Qingfeng. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard the voice. He knew nothing about the Martial Emperor who left this Martial Emperor's secret treasure behind since the beginning when he journeyed here and until now after he had entered the palace. Now that the Martial Emperor who left this Martial Emperor's secret treasure behind took the initiative to introduce himself, Duan Lingtian finally knew his honorific title. Since Duan Lingtian had the rebirth Martial Emperor's memory in him, it was natural for him to know that all Martial Emperors on the Cloud Continent had honorific titles of their own that they carried through their entire lives. Just like the rebirth Martial Emperor, it was also an honorific title. Martial Emperor Qingfeng was the honorific title of the martial emperor who left this martial emperor's secret treasure behind. Since this is the Qingfeng Palace's second level, then I should be on the first level earlier. There are a total of 5 levels in the Qingfeng Palace. Does this mean we'll have to ascend level by level? Duan Lingtian speculated secretly. As if it was responding to Duan Lingtian's speculation, Martial Emperor Qingfeng's voice sounded again. I've set up a 9-9 wooden figure stage on Qingfeng Palace's second level. The first person who breaks through the 9-9 wooden figure stage will receive a copper key and will be granted permission to enter the Qingfeng Palace's third level. The mirror image illusory formation will vanish, and the 9-9 wooden figure stage will be activated 10 breaths later. Martial Emperor Qingfeng's voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears clearly. Mirror image illusory formation. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed after he heard what Martial Emperor Qingfeng said. He extended his spiritual energy out immediately and realized that everything around him was an illusion. It was all illusory mirror images made up by the mirror image illusory formation. They did not exist at all. He could only look at them but not touch them. 9-9 wooden figure stage. What's that? Wooden figure. Throughout the next 10 breaths, Duan Lingtian thought to himself, so what if there are so many of them if they're wooden figures? They'll turn into scattering powder when I fight them with all my strength. Duan Lingtian was very confident about his current ability. However, subconsciously, he knew the 9-9 wooden figure stage would not be as easy as he thought. After all, it was a test the martial emperor left behind. This is the Qingfeng Palace's second level. Theoretically, this 9-9 wooden figure stage should be more powerful than the human and beast sculptures on the first level, Duan Lingtian speculated secretly as he drew on his experience on the Qingfeng Palace's first level. Also, those who managed to pass through the 9-9 wooden figure stage would only obtain 1 copper key. Isn't this martial emperor Qingfeng too stingy? Duan Lingtian's thought to himself as his heart jolted. He figured something was wrong after changing his mindset. It's the Qingfeng Palace's second level. Theoretically, the reward for breaking through each level would definitely not be any lower than the value of the grade 1 spirit weapons and medicinal pills. Perhaps, there's some secret hidden behind the copper key that I don't know about. The more Duan Lingtian thought about it, the more certain he became. 991. 10 breaths were neither that long of a time nor was it entirely short. When Duan Lingtian was lost in his thoughts, 10 breaths passed by just like that. After 10 breaths had passed, Duan Lingtian noticed all the mirror images that were made by the mirror image illusory formation had disappeared. At the same time, he appeared in another corridor again. In comparison to the corridor on the Qingfeng Palace's first level, the corridor on the second level seemed to be more narrow. Apart from that, there were wooden figures standing in the Qingfeng Palace's second level corridor. Their presence was quite conspicuous. These wooden figures were paired up in 2s and 3s. They were either standing on the ground or hovering in midair, effectively blocking the path that led to the other end of the corridor completely. Nobody could pass through it at all. The group of wooden figures in the corridor looked extra stiff. They did not move at all since Duan Lingtian saw them. So this is the 9-9 wooden figure stage? Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he raised his eyebrows. When he extended his spiritual energy out, he soon found out what the wooden figures were. These wooden figures were no different from those human and beast sculptures with inscription formation on their bodies on the Qingfeng Palace's first level. Similarly, there were also origin stones and concept fragments in their bodies. Although Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy could not detect how powerful the concept fragments were in these wooden figures' bodies, it was not difficult for him to guess these wooden figures' abilities. It would definitely be a lot more powerful than those human and beast sculptures on the Qingfeng Palace's first level. If that was not the case, it was unnecessary to divide them into 2 levels. Also, the wood that they're made of, it's not like the usual material. Soon after, the spiritual energy that Duan Lingtian extended out detected the density of the wood the wooden figures were made from was far more powerful than usual rocks. I get it now. Although these fellows are made of wood, their bodies are much more powerful than those sculptures on the Qingfeng Palace's first level. Their bodies' movements are more agile when they move. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. He did not dare to underestimate these wooden figures anymore. Oh, yes. Martial Emperor Qingfeng mentioned, only the first person who breaks through the 9-9 wooden figure stage will get the bronze key to enter the third level of Qingfeng Palace. As the thought flashed through his mind, Duan Lingtian's facial expression changed all of a sudden as he recalled the content of the message that Martial Emperor Qingfeng left earlier. Damn it! How can I forget about this? Duan Lingtian panicked as he recalled how much time he had wasted earlier. How could he be distracted by these wooden figures during such a critical time? Moreover, him using his spiritual energy to investigate what the wooden figures were made of was completely unnecessary and showed that he had no sense of urgency. To him, the most important thing now was to break through this 9-9 wooden figure stage before him, obtain the thing called the bronze key, and head to the Qing Feng Palace's third level. Whirlwind. Duan Lingtian did not dare to delay any further and dashed in. It seemed as though his entire being was transformed into a hurricane as he dashed to the other end of the corridor. Just as Duan Lingtian dashed like a purple lightning across the corridor, something happened when he was tens of meters away from the 3 wooden figures that stood in front. Crack, 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 3 wooden figures' stiff bodies shook suddenly and a clear sound reverberated. It was as if they were activated at that moment. However, Duan Lingtian did not find that surprising. As he was getting closer to the wooden figures, his sensitive spiritual energy noticed that he had unintentionally activated an inscription formation. Moreover, he had activated all the inscription formations in the wooden figures along the corridor. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 wooden figures closest to Duan Lingtian attacked him almost simultaneously. They looked menacing. The origin energies in their bodies ran rampant and quickly integrated with their concepts. They demonstrated their powerful strengths and charged at Duan Lingtian without mercy. FWAH, FWAH, FWAH. At the same time, 500 ancient horned dragons' silhouettes appeared above the 3 wooden figures' heads. They charged toward Duan Lingtian ferociously. Even a first-level void transformation martial artist who had comprehended the first-level void transformation concept only had a strength equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragons without using any spirit weapons. The 3 wooden figures with 500 ancient horned dragons' strength charged quickly as they attacked. The air current trembled in the space followed by an ear-piercing sound of air explosion. The noise from the air explosion swept through like an airwave continuously as they transformed into a strong gust of wind that caused the purple robe on Duan Lingtian to flap noisily. Faced with the 3 wooden figures' attacks, Duan Lingtian's face remained unchanged. He did not even look them straight in their eyes. Die! A cold voice came out of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Without knowing when, a 3-foot-long blade that was formed completely from khaki energy appeared in his hand that was slightly lifted. He shook all of a sudden. Whoosh, 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 As soon as Duan Lingtian spoke, a series of quick sword whistling sound came like pouring rain. They came continuously and did not stop at all. Whoosh. When the sword whistling sound died down, Duan Lingtian extended his other arm into the air and caught 10s of mid-grade origin stones and 3 concept fragments that appeared out of thin air. Soon after, Duan Lingtian dashed toward the next group of wooden figures. As soon as Duan Lingtian moved, the 3 wooden figures that were rushing at him were fiercely blasted in the air and turned into pieces of broken wood. They fell onto the ground like rain. Pa, 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 As soon as the 3 wooden figures turned into hundreds, possibly even thousands, of broken wood that fell on the ground, a shower of wood began to fall nearby. The same thing happened for a long time without stopping. Whoosh, 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 The quick purple silhouette would vanish from where he was in an instant and appear deeper into the corridor in the next second. Whoosh, 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 There would be gusts of ear-piercing sword whistling sound without fail whenever he appeared, and it would be followed by a shower of wooden pieces. There would also be countless broken wood pieces all over the place wherever he went. I've killed 78 of them, there are 3 more. 9-9 wooden figure stage, 9 multiplied by 9 equals to 81, so, that's how it is. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed when he figured it out. He quickly dashed toward the last 3 wooden figures like a bolt of purple lightning. The 3 wooden figures with 800 ancient horned dragon silhouettes above each of their heads had rampant energies that combined the origin energies and concepts in their bodies. They were attacking Duan Lingtian simultaneously like thunders. Right on time. This time, Duan Lingtian did not fight them with the 3-foot-long blade formed from khaki energy. Instead, he used the most direct way and welcomed them with both his fists. Whoosh, whoosh, as he punched both his fists out with all his might, 2 waves of khaki energy with green energy and purple lightning entwined in it swept toward the wooden figures. In between, there were waves of sharp aura that came from the sword concept. Bang! A loud bang exploded and echoed clearly in the narrow corridor. Victory favors the bold. In the meantime, the energy that was flowing out of Duan Lingtian's fist swept toward the 3 wooden figures without any reservation. The attack to destroy the 3 wooden figures was earth-shaking. The 3 wooden figures' attacks were suppressed entirely by the energy. It smashed the 3 wooden figures into powder, and they vanished from this world completely. Bang, 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 comma. As the last 3 wooden figures were smashed into powder, gusts of deafening air explosions resounded. The entire Qingfeng Palace seemed to shake as though the earth was falling apart. Hu, comma. The air current that was rolling in from all directions created gusts of maniacal wind that lifted the broken wood pieces in the corridor. A shower of broken wooden fell, and this time it lasted longer than before. A purple silhouette stood at the end of the corridor as the purple robe on him billowed in the wind. It was a purple-clad young man who stood with a cold stare like an undefeated god of war. The bronze key. Duan Lingtian's eyes landed on a stone platform outside the corridor in an instant. The stone platform stood there alone, looking rather pathetic. Just like the stone platform, a solitary bronze key lay on the stone platform. The bronze key was crescent-shaped, and the material used to refine it was unknown. It was completely different from the average keys. Time did not seem to have left its mark on the keys. The 3rd level, do I go up from here? Duan Lingtian looked above the platform at the same time. The ceiling was similar to the one he saw in the 1-in-4 room on Qingfeng Palace's 1st level earlier. It was not sealed and could clearly be moved. How come it's not opened yet? Could it be that the ceiling would only open the path to Qingfeng Palace's 3rd floor after I take the bronze key away? As that thought popped into Duan Lingtian's mind, he did not delay any further and flew like a goshawk as he landed stably on the stone platform. He grabbed the bronze key with a casual lift of his arm. It's not opened yet. Duan Lingtian lifted his head to look at the ceiling. However, he realized nothing was happening to the ceiling. Instead, the stone platform beneath his feet began to tremble. What's this? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed as he looked at the stone platform beneath his feet in shock. At this moment, he realized that an inscription formation was activated in the stone platform under his feet. Apart from that, there was an odd energy coming out of the inscription formation that swept toward the corridor he came from. Whoosh! Right at this moment, Duan Lingtian felt as though he was stepping on air. He was surprised to see the stone platform moved after it detached from the ground. As soon as it detached under his feet, it floated to the corridor he came from and hovered there. What? Soon after, Duan Lingtian saw the hundreds of thousands of broken wood pieces in the corridor began to fly as though they were being summoned by something. They flew toward the stone platform that was hovering in midair at an alarming rate. 992. The stone platform was not that big, it was surrounded by hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces in just a blink of an eye. The broken wood pieces kept rolling and eventually they took the form of a figurine. A brand new giant wooden figure was formed. What's that inscription formation? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed when he witnessed the scene. He was in shock. He could clearly sense it from the spiritual energy he had extended just a moment ago. Along the stone platform, there was an inscription formation inside that exuded an odd energy. The hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces piled up in the corridor were triggered for seemingly no reason. When the stone platform approached them, the hundreds of thousands of broken wood pieces rushed toward the stone platform as if they were summoned by something before they transformed into a giant wooden figure. This wooden figure consisted of hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces. Although the surface of its body was uneven, it did not hide the vast and imposing aura it exuded. There aren't any origin stones inside the platform, only a piece of concept fragment. These broken wood pieces originated from the previous wooden figures, so it retained some origin energy from the mid-grade origin stone in the wooden figures' bodies. And now, these meager and extremely weak origin energies in the broken wood pieces are entering the stone platform as though they were led by something. It's that inscription formation again. Duan Lingtian, who was extremely confused earlier, suddenly realized something. The inscription formation on the strange stone platform created an extremely formidable suction force. All traces of origin energies on the hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces were absorbed by it. Moments later, the origin energies in the hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces were completely absorbed by the stone platform. The stone platform seemed to have become the heart of the giant wooden figure as it continued to grow stronger. Boom! Without knowing when, Duan Lingtian's extended spiritual energy detected the origin energies that were absorbed and accumulated by the stone platform, trembling suddenly before erupting completely. In an instant, milky white flames that seemed as though they could incinerate everything surged out from the giant wooden figure that was formed by hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces. Heaven and earth energy stirred and formed a heaven and earth phenomenon above the wooden figure. 400 ancient horned dragons' silhouettes appeared clearly before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Just with the origin energy alone, it triggered the heaven and earth energy and formed such a heaven and earth phenomenon, its equivalent to a third-level void transformation martial artist exerting the strength of their origin energy. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed slightly when he witnessed the scene before him. As far as he knew, an inscription formation formed from mid-grade origin stones, no matter how many there were, could only utilize origin energy equivalent to a 7th-level void interpretation martial artist at the most. That would amount to 100 ancient horned dragons' strength. However, the giant wooden figure that did not have any origin stone in its body could exert origin energy that was equivalent to a 3rd-level void transformation martial artist. Duan Lingtian felt shocked from the bottom of his heart. In his opinion, this was ridiculous. The origin energy in the giant wooden figure came from the broken wood pieces. The origin energies from the broken wood pieces originated from the mid-grade origin stone. As a result, even if all the origin energies in the broken wood pieces were combined together, it shouldn't be able to demonstrate such a strength. After all, these origin energies came from a mid-grade origin stone. Mid-grade origin stone has a lot of limitations, so it's impossible to display such a strength through the inscription formation alone. Something just did not add up for Duan Lingtian regarding that. Finally, he came to a conclusion. I think it must be the inscription formation inside this strange stone platform. This mysterious and unique inscription formation doesn't even exist in Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath as he ended his train of thoughts. Although the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory did not have any record of the inscription formation, he still managed to figure something out from the Rebirth Martial Emperor's knowledge of inscription formations. The inscription formation inside the strange stone platform was truly amazing. To be able to combine the weak origin energies in the hundreds and thousands of broken wood pieces and gather it into such a powerful origin energy, this inscription formation's simply unbelievable. Duan Lingtian's eyes were tinged with fear. Although he did not understand the inscription formation, he managed to derive an extremely crazy idea from the information he gathered from the inscription formation. If this kind of inscription formation can be used on human martial artists, their origin energy would have a substantial increase if it allows human martial artists to take control of the inscription formation and absorb origin energy from other human martial artists. How scary would that be? Duan Lingtian felt chills from his heart, and his scalp tingled when he thought about that. If this idea worked, the entire Cloud continent would be shocked. At that time, the belief that stronger powerhouses could not be defeated by a large number of weaker counterparts would be completely destroyed. Through such an inscription formation, 100 first-level void transformation martial artists' origin energies could be combined, accumulated and increased to its maximum at the 7th-level void transformation. A 4th-level void transformation martial artist, who usually could easily kill 100 first-level void transformation martial artists, would be easily defeated after the 100 first-level void transformation martial artists cooperated with the help from the inscription formation. If such an inscription formation works on human martial artists, I'll only need 100 9th-level void transformation martial artists to combine their origin energies and increase it through the inscription formation to reach the level of a martial monarch. At that time, it's not impossible for 100 9th-level void transformation martial artists to kill a martial monarch powerhouse. A crazy idea formed in Duan Lingtian's mind and his mood was affected accordingly. Looking at the current situation, although 100 9th-level void transformation martial artists together sounded terrifying, it was nothing compared to the intimidation from a first-level martial monarch stage powerhouse. A first-level martial monarch stage powerhouse could completely kill 100 9th-level void transformation martial artists. However, if the inscription formation inside the strange stone platform could be used on one of the 9th-level void transformation martial artists, then he could combine, accumulate and increase their strength with the origin energies from the other 99 9th-level void transformation martial artists. At that time, the origin energy would be at the 3rd-level martial monarch stage or even the 4th-level martial monarch stage. It would not be just a dream. Such a strength was enough to instantly kill a first-level martial monarch powerhouse. There's strength in numbers, this is true on Earth. Even when I was at my peak as Earth's strongest weapons specialist, I would still die if I was surrounded by 100 normal people throwing 100 kitchen knives at me simultaneously. Although he was known as Earth's strongest weapons specialist in his past life, it was impossible for him to block 100 kitchen knives from all directions. However, in Cloud Continent, strength in numbers only apply if the martial artists are similar in strength. The notion of the weak overcoming the strong was nothing but a big joke. Just like how a first-level martial monarch powerhouse is fearless against hundreds and thousands of ordinary void transformation martial artists. Even if it's a hard fight, the ones who die are the hundreds and thousands of ordinary void transformation martial artists and not the first-level martial monarch powerhouse. Duan Lingtian sighed in his heart as his thoughts trailed. In terms of a martial artist's cultivation in Cloud Continent, every level's improvement would bring a great leap in strength. Trying to win a fight by sheer number and for the weak to overpower a stronger opponent was harder than going to heaven. But if this kind of inscription formation can be used on human martial artists, it's not impossible for hundreds and thousands of ordinary void transformation martial artists to join hands and kill a martial monarch powerhouse. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed and flames of raw desire arose. Suddenly, a swift and violent wind whistling sound reverberated. It instantly woke Duan Lingtian up. When Duan Lingtian finally reacted, a giant fist was already in front of his eyes. He did not have time to completely defend himself, he could only hurriedly utilize as much force as he could to defend himself. Boom! The result was obvious. Although Duan Lingtian, who was unprepared, managed to utilize several hundreds of ancient horned dragon's strength in a hurry, he was still crushed by the power contained in that huge fist. After the formidable force suppressed Duan Lingtian, it landed on Duan Lingtian's body. It pushed him off like a rotten stump and unrelentingly smashed at him until he flew away. Wah! Duan Lingtian, who was smashed, felt his internal organs trembled and something rising in his throat. He then involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood, his face turned ashen immediately. At the same time, his body flew out uncontrollably like a shooting arrow. He did not slow down until he struggled and used his origin energy. Boom! Even so, he still slammed into one side of the wall in Qingfeng Palace's second level. Once again, his internal organ trembled violently due to the impact, and his vital energy and blood constantly churned in his body. Wah! Wah! Duan Lingtian spat out another 2 mouthfuls of blood as the origin energy in his body stirred uncontrollably. Boom! 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 Simultaneously, air explosion sounds caused by compressed air flow spread to Duan Lingtian's direction in a timely manner. Moreover, gusts of fierce wind that was blowing in all directions accompanied it. As the fierce wind hit, a piercing wind whistling sound headed toward Duan Lingtian as though it would not rest until Duan Lingtian was killed. The giant fist appeared again, and the giant wooden figure attacked unrelentingly. Pang! Duan Lingtian's face changed, and the quasi-royal grade spirit sword materialized in his hands. With a backhand, he slashed the wall behind him with the blade of his sword and hurriedly exerted his force. In that instant, the impact pushed Duan Lingtian away, and he narrowly escaped the giant wooden figure's punch. Boom! The giant wooden figure's fist, that almost connected with Duan Lingtian's body, roughly slammed on the wall and resulted in a loud bang that sounded like an exploding mine. 993. At this moment, the sturdiness of Qingfeng Palace's wall became apparent. The giant wooden figure's punch contained more than 1,000 ancient horned dragons' strength. Although it roughly slammed on the wall, not only did it fail to penetrate the wall, it did not even put a dent in the wall. Qingfeng Palace's walls were obviously constructed with special materials since it was extremely sturdy. 7th level advanced wind concept. Duan Lingtian relied on the impact and managed to escape the giant wooden figure's punch, his heart jolted and gallbladder trembled. When he saw the heaven and earth phenomenon in the space above the giant wooden figure, he could not help but stare. 1,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. The giant wooden figure, with its origin energy fully exerted, had a strength that was equivalent to 400 ancient horned dragon's strength. After it combined wind concept with its origin energy and transformed into gusts of green wind that entwined around its body, it displayed the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragon's strength. That meant its wind concept was equivalent to 800 ancient horned dragon's strength. It was a 7th level advanced wind concept. Duan Lingtian retrieved one of the life recovery pill he had refined and ate it. The life recovery pill with high purity healed most of his injuries in just a blink of an eye. Although there were still some injuries on Duan Lingtian's body, there was no pressure at all since he could crush the giant wooden figure with his full strength. 9 Dragons Radiant Flash. There was a hint of coldness on the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth when he faced the giant wooden figure that was charging toward him again. He lifted the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hands and slashed out suddenly. Immediately, origin energy that was combined with 4 types of concepts transformed into 3 divine dragons that shot forward. The 3 divine dragons' eyes flashed, 6 extremely radiant lights shot out and left 6 holes on the giant wooden figure's body. However, the giant wooden figure was not human. Even with 6 holes on its body, it was still as fierce. It continued to charge toward Duan Lingtian. Almost forgot about it, it's just a wooden figure, obviously, it doesn't have any vital organs. Duan Lingtian, who had mistaken the wooden figure for a human, could not help but smile bitterly. Instead of using 9 dragons' radiant flash again, he flew out and faced the giant wooden figure. Shoo, 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 a series of sword-whistling noise like rainstorm rang out from nowhere. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hands struck out like lightning and broke the giant wooden figure into numerous pieces in just a blink of an eye. For a period of time, the strange stone platform hovered solitarily in midair. Wah! At this moment, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy that was on guard all along trembled slightly. He immediately figured out the inscription formation inside the strange stone platform was being triggered again. It intended to pull the wood pieces all over the ground together again. It was apparent that it was trying to form another giant wooden figure and attack him again. Duan Lingtian had already learned from his mistake. Naturally, he would not let it succeed again. As he lifted his arm, a vast energy shrouded the stone monument. Pang! A loud bang echoed as the stone monument trembled. Although it did not break, the energy extended by the inscription formation slowed down a little. Duan Lingtian seized the opportunity and quickly kept the stone platform in his spatial ring. After the stone platform was kept in the spatial ring, the rising pieces of wood fell back on the ground. Calmness was instantly restored at the scene. I'll keep the stone platform first, I'll study it when I have time. Duan Lingtian decided. If that inscription formation can really be used on human martial artists, thus allowing a fight to be won by numbers, for the weak to overpower the strong, maybe I might consider amassing a force. Duan Lingtian thought silently in his heart. As his thoughts trailed, there was a gleam in his eyes that were filled with expectations. At this moment, Duan Lingtian seemed to be imagining hundreds and thousands of void transformation martial artists led by him traveling all over the place, and even a martial monarch powerhouse had to avoid them. Just thinking of a scene like that made his blood boil. Rumble, 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 several moments after Duan Lingtian kept that strange stone platform, a burst of loud noises sounded and entered his ears clearly. Simultaneously, the ceiling above him opened up, and a passageway headed to Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level appeared before his eyes. The 2 other corridors are silent, it seems that the both of them didn't make it. When Duan Lingtian stepped on air to leave the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace, he purposely glanced at 2 other corridors, excluding the one he came from. It was silent, and no movement could be heard. It was obvious the 2 young powerhouses did not possess the ability to break through the corridor filled with wooden figures. Earlier, I was worried someone might get ahead of me, obtain the copper key and get the chance to move on to Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level. Now that I think about it, I was worrying needlessly, Duan Lingtian muttered as he looked at the crescent-shaped copper key in his hands. There was a hint of surprise in his voice. Shortly after, he left the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace and appeared on the 3rd level. Rumble, 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 as Duan Lingtian arrived at Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level, loud noises were heard from the ceiling of the 2nd level again. The passageway closed as though it was trying to prevent someone else from coming up. Young one, congratulations on your arrival to Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level. Once you pass the 3rd level's test, you'll get a silver key. When Duan Lingtian realized he had triggered another polyphony formation, Martial Emperor Qingfeng's voice had already entered his ears in a timely manner. Silver key. When Duan Lingtian heard Martial Emperor Qingfeng's statement, the corner of his mouth twitched. First, it was a copper key, now it's a silver key. I wonder if there's a golden key. However, Duan Lingtian knew that he did not have any other options right now. He would have to do as Martial Emperor Qingfeng said unless he did not want the 3 profundity fragment inside Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body. When Duan Lingtian was breaking through the Qingfeng Palace 1 level at a time, the others scattered around Qingfeng Palace were faced with the same situation. Naturally, most of them were eliminated in the first, second and even third level of Qingfeng Palace. The test on the third level was undoubtedly much more difficult than the test on the second level. In addition to breaking through the necessary test, they had to fight at the cost of their lives. Only those who remained would obtain the silver key and successfully move on. The third level of Qingfeng Palace, inside one of the spacious hall. 3 figures stood separately in a corner, facing off against each other. The smell of gunpowder was unusually strong, as though they were ready to attack at any moment. Among them was an extremely beautiful young woman. A red-clad young woman who was drop-dead gorgeous. She looked remarkably like a fire elf. Suddenly, one of the young men yelled, "Kill!" The origin energy in his body skyrocketed, his concept followed like a shadow and merged with the spirit weapon in his hands. He first rushed in the red-clad woman's direction. The power of the spirit weapon in his hands was completely exerted. In his opinion, among the 3 people there, including him, the weakest one would definitely be the red-clad woman who only looked around 20 years old. She would be the easiest to kill. In order to fight the last person without any worries, he decided to first eliminate the red-clad woman. Although he was entranced by the woman's beauty, he was not in the mood for it now. "I'm determined to get the silver key." The young man's eyes gleamed with malice while confidence filled his face. In the meantime, heaven and earth energy stirred in the space above him as they continued to form a heaven and earth phenomenon. Approximately 1,000 ancient horned dragons silhouettes were formed. "Show!" The other young man charged toward the red-clad woman at the same time as the former young man rushed there. It seemed as though they had planned this beforehand. At the space above him, there were also approximately 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes lunging toward the woman with great momentum. Faced with both their attacks, the woman stood firmly. She remained unmoving as her clothes fluttered. There was no wind in here. The woman's red robe was fluttering from the airwave and fierce wind due to the air explosion caused by the 2 young men's attacks. Die. Both of them were from Azumo sect and North Nether sect respectively. The Azumo sect's disciple who attacked later looked at the red-clad woman ferociously, and there was malice in his gaze. Out of everyone who had entered the Martial Emperor's secret treasure with him, only him and another person were left. The 2 strongest young powerhouse from the younger generation of Azumo sect were killed by the same person. The killer was none other than Duan Lingtian. A young powerhouse from a mere third-rate force had frightened him to the bottom of his heart. He knew this red-clad woman in front of him was close to Duan Lingtian before they entered Qingfeng Palace. This was one of the reasons he attacked her. The red-clad girl was Feng Tianwu. Ever since Feng Tianwu split up with Duan Lingtian, she had managed to pass the tests from the first level of Qingfeng Palace to the third level. After she passed the test, Martial Emperor Qingfeng's voice entered her ears clearly. She found out the third level of Qingfeng Palace required 2 persons' lives and blood sacrifice to open the entrance to the 4th level. Faced with both attacks, one on the left and the other on the right, Feng Tianwu's face remained calm as though she could keep a straight face even if Mount Tai collapsed before her. Feng Tianwu did not make any move until the 2 of them arrived near her. Boom! There was a raising flame on Feng Tianwu's body that stirred the heaven and earth energy in the space above her. Finally, it formed the heaven and earth phenomenon. 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes descended slowly, and they looked lifelike. Ninth level advanced fire concept. When the 2 young men saw the heaven and earth phenomenon above Feng Tianwu, the faces of both persons, who was rapidly charging toward her with the intention to kill, changed dramatically. 994. Whether it was the North Nether sect's disciple or the Azumo sect's disciple, both of them could see the scene before their eyes very clearly. The red-clad young girl, whom they had regarded as a pushover, did not use even an ounce of her origin energy from the very beginning. Even without using her origin energy, just by communicating and mobilizing her fire concept to activate the heaven and earth energy was enough to gather 1,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. In other words, Feng Tianwu's fire concept would definitely have the strength of more than 1,000 ancient horned dragons once it was cast. This also meant the fire concept that could unleash the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons was none other than the 9th level advanced fire concept. Whoosh, whoosh. After discovering the level of fire concept that Feng Tianwu had comprehended, colors drained from the faces of the North Nether sect and Azumo sect's disciples as horror dawned on their faces immediately. The 2 of them were in the midst of charging toward Feng Tianwu, and they immediately slowed their speed down. They looked at each other tacitly, and both of them could see the inexplicable terror in each other's eyes. Flee. Within seconds, the two men came to a halt simultaneously in front of Feng Tianwu and hastily turned around, ready to flee. In their opinion, since Feng Tianwu had comprehended the 9th level advanced fire concept, her cultivation base must be pretty good as well. 9th level void transformation concept. Even the strongest person among the current younger generations in Azumo sect and North Nether sect did not have such a high comprehension of void transformation concept. For this reason, Feng Tianwu, in their opinion, was even more terrifying than the strongest person among the current younger generation in their respective sect. Just as the two of them turned around and was about to flee, Feng Tianwu made her move. The red and long whip lashed out like a red lightning and bit their skin like a poisonous snake. Swish! The long whip tore through the sky and set off a series of swift wind whistling sound. Ear-piercing wind whistling sound entered the eyes. Isn't it supposed to be ears instead? Of the Azumo sect and North Nether sect's disciples and made them tremble for a second. Horror dawned on their faces as they hurriedly fled. Unfortunately, they were still too slow. Whoosh, whoosh. The long whip that was like a red poisonous snake lashed out rapidly and penetrated the Azumo sect and North Nether sect disciples' bodies. In just a twinkle of an eye, they were killed one by one. The two of them did not even have the chance to raise their speed to flee before they died from the long whip in Feng Tianwu's hands in mere seconds. Boom, boom. As the two bodies fell on the floor, the long whip that was wriggling like a red spirit snake in Feng Tianwu's hands disappeared from her hands without a trace. Meanwhile, the raging flame that was burning on her body dissipated, and the 1100 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons that finally appeared above her head also slowly dissipated into nothingness. If the North Nether sect and Azumo sect's disciples who had just passed away saw this scene, they would definitely regret running away from Feng Tianwu in the last moment when they were still alive. Had they known earlier that Feng Tianwu's full strength was only over 1100 ancient horned dragons, they would not have fled in the first place. They only fled because they reasoned that since Feng Tianwu had a comprehension at the 9th level advanced fire concept, her cultivation base must have also made a breakthrough to the void transformation. Had they known earlier that she was only a 4th level void interpretation martial artist, they would not fear her 9th level advanced fire concept to the point that they had to flee. Although Feng Tianwu had the strength of over 1100 ancient horned dragons and was still slightly stronger than them, they would probably be willing to try their luck and fight her because the gap between Feng Tianwu's strength and theirs was not too huge, and there might be a sliver of hope in defeating her. They chose to flee because they thought there was no hope. Looks like my fire concept can be used to scare the others, Feng Tianwu muttered as she looked at the two bodies on the ground. The stunning and delicate face did not seem happy nor enraged, no emotions could be seen on her face at all. If the two of them had tried to battle it out with her earlier, it would still take some effort even if she would eventually kill them. However, when the other party saw the 9th level advanced fire concept she mobilized and demonstrated, they immediately dismissed the thought of fighting and decided to flee hastily instead. That gave her the opportunity to give chase and kill them off easily. It could be said the reason the two of them died so fast was due to their cowardice. Feng Tianwu suddenly expressed her surprise as though she had discovered something. In the next moment, she saw the blood that oozed out from the two bodies and had formed a stream of fresh blood, seemed to have triggered something. It resulted in waves of aura from the inscription formation to rise from the surrounding. Blood sacrifice. Feng Tianwu immediately figured out what was happening when she recalled the message left behind by Martial Emperor Qingfeng. Rumble, 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 comma. In the next second, a series of loud noise that came from above her head reverberated by Feng Tianwu's ears. Feng Tianwu was curious and immediately looked up. With just a glance, she saw the ceiling above her head began to move and open, revealing a path that led to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace that welcomed her. Where's the silver key? Feng Tianwu was not surprised by the scene before her eyes. Immediately, her thoughts shifted to the reward Martial Emperor Qingfeng left behind at the 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace. According to Martial Emperor Qingfeng, the reward for the 3rd level was a silver key. As for what the silver key was for, she had no idea at all. Naturally, although she had no idea what the silver key was for, she could faintly guess the significance it represented. Otherwise, it would not be placed at the 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace by Martial Emperor Qingfeng as the reward for passing the test. However, now that the door to the 4th level of the Qingfeng Palace was opened, the silver key that was the reward of Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level had yet to appear. This made her incredibly impatient. Rumble. At this moment, another light rumble resonated by Feng Tianwu's ears. In the next second, she saw a blue brick nearby on the floor that was illuminated by the light shining down from the 4th level of the Qingfeng Palace. It suddenly quivered violently before rising up from the ground. Whoosh! With a lift of her hand, Feng Tianwu took the brick. A simple and unsophisticated small box appeared before her eyes. Crack! The moment Feng Tianwu took hold of the little box, she opened it right away. The item contained in the little box entered her sight, and her eyes lit up. A meaningful smile crept up on her face instantly. There was a crescent-shaped key lying quietly in the box that she opened. The shape's exactly the same except for the color. At the same time, Feng Tianwu took out another crescent-shaped copper key. It contrasted sharply with the silver key in the box. The 4th level. The moment Feng Tianwu got her hands on the silver key, she did not waste any more time idling at the 3rd level of the Qingfeng Palace. Soaring up into the sky, she landed firmly on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. As Feng Tianwu climbed up to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, many people similarly passed the test at the 3rd level and activated the entrance that led to the 4th level as well. This is the silver key. It looks exactly the same with the copper key. Peng Bao's eyes lit up when he looked at the crescent-shaped key in his hand. Apart from Peng Bao, there were many other people who had also obtained their own silver key and successfully ascended to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace as well. Each and every one of them was at a different place. As they continued to climb up, the distance between them gradually became smaller and smaller. At the 1st level of Qingfeng Palace, it was 1 out of 4. It meant that only 1 out of 4 people would be able to climb up to the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace. In the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace, it was 1 out of 3. In the 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace, it was 1 out of 3. Based on this, among the group of people who entered Qingfeng Palace, only 1 out of 8 people could successfully move on to the 4th level. Those who stepped onto the 4th level would have to eliminate the other 7 people. What's there at the 4th level? After Duan Lingtian had obtained the silver key, he left the 3rd level of Qingfeng Palace that had 2 bodies lying on the ground and successfully climbed up to the 4th level. He still found it peculiar when he thought about the experience he went through at the 3rd level. This was because the test he had gone through at Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level was much easier compared to the test he went through at the 2nd level. The strongest puppet he came across at the 3rd level had a strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons once it was fully unleashed. It was much weaker compared to the giant wooden puppet that he encountered at the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace. Perhaps, the test at the 3rd level is easier than the one in the 2nd level because I still need to kill another 2 young powerhouses to use their lives as a blood sacrifice and open the entrance that leads to the 4th level. The more Duan Lingtian thought about it, the more certain he became. Congratulations, young man, if you pass the test in the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, you'll be able to obtain the golden key and another reward as well. Martial Emperor Qing Feng's voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears once again through polyphony formation. Just like I thought, there's a golden key after all. If I can get my hands on it, it means I've successfully gathered all 3 keys of gold, silver, and copper. Could it be that these 3 keys are used to unlock something? Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he speculated. Soon after, the test on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace began. The test on this level was not fighting some sculptures, wooden figures or puppets. Instead, one had to go head-to-head with the endless nature energy in the long corridor. The nature energy included wind, fire, water, thunder, and earth energy. At this moment, the energy swept through the offensive inscription formation and obstructed Duan Lingtian from moving forward. It would not allow him to pass through easily. Boom, 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 comma. Duan Lingtian ran as his origin energy soared from his body with 4 types of concepts following closely behind. From the very beginning to the end, his hands did not idle at all. Punches and palms thrust out and pushed back the gusts of nature energy that rushed toward him like a fierce flood and savage beasts. The strongest among these nature energy only had the 9th level concept fragments in the inscription formation. It was about the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Originally, the energy was nothing to Duan Lingtian, but the nature energy filled up almost the entire long corridor. Although it was just a matter of time before he eventually passed through, there was no doubt it was a waste of time. 995. The test at the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace is called the Bumpy Road. The one who manages to clear the bumpy road in the shortest time will stand a chance of obtaining the golden key. As long as you make it through the bumpy road, you'll still have a chance to obtain the other rewards I left behind even if you don't get the golden key. This was the original words of martial Emperor Qingfeng in the message he left behind using the polyphony formation. Due to this reason, what Duan Lingtian had to do now was to go through the bumpy road to reach the other side and get his hands on the golden key as well as the other rewards. Judging from the message left behind by martial Emperor Qingfeng, it looks like this time, somebody else is also competing with me this time. It's similar to when I was in the first, second and third levels of Qingfeng Palace. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, his hands' movements immediately sped up and extended at lightning speed, charged out as fast as lightning. The punches and palms that contained all his energy swept out and opened the path ahead, smashing away all the obstacles without any reservations. When Duan Lingtian used this made his move, apart from igniting a series of ear-piercing wind-whistling sounds, it was also accompanied by a deafening burst of a deafening thunder-like sound. Boom, 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 comma. The sound of explosions continued to be heard set off in succession, and it generated fluctuations in the airwaves that swept out in every all directions to and to created several flurries, countless pervasive and tyrannical of hurricanes that were pervasive and tyrannical. The wind continued to blow as punches were thrown out. Bam! Duan Lingtian's punches were overwhelming. Although the stormy waves that were rushing toward him contained the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons, his punch was so hard that it sailed upstream against the current and set off a series of loud noises. The stormy waves were the water energy transformed by the water concept through the inscription formation. As Duan Lingtian punched the waves upstream, he began to fly out nimbly. Whirlwind. Within seconds, Duan Lingtian passed through this stormy wave and was making his way toward the other end of this long corridor. Whoosh. This time around, a tyrannical soaring flame was charging toward him. When the flame enveloped Duan Lingtian, it was similar to a gigantic fiery behemoth that opened its mouth wide to swallow Duan Lingtian up whole. Faced with the overbearing flame that encompassed the entire sky and earth, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. Once again, he punched out and temporarily suppressed the encompassing flame, making it difficult for it to surge again for the time being. Whoosh! A purple figure that was as swift as a lightning once again charged out to the front just in time to face the next wave of rolling earth energy. As the earth energy charged toward Duan Lingtian and enveloped him, it perfectly merged and became one with the entire earth. There was no distinction between one and the other. Damn it! At the same time, Duan Lingtian's keen spiritual energy immediately noticed this subtle change, and horror dawned on his face instantly. It's not only able to solidify the earth energy, the 9th level earth concept fragment in the inscription formation can also communicate with the earth and borrow another wave of earth energy. Exclamation mark quote. Duan Lingtian was taken aback. When the soaring earth energy was shrouding him, he could clearly see the heaven and earth energy above the sky whirling and gathering into the heaven and earth phenomenon with the strength of 1,500 ancient horned dragons in an overbearing manner. It was as though it was about to crush him completely. Humph! When Duan Lingtian saw this, his gaze turned cold, and the quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared in his hand out of thin air. His sword slashed out as he pounced forward. Whoosh! At the place where the sword ray briefly pierced through, the heaven and earth energy was cut into halves. Duan Lingtian seized this opportunity to charge out and fly through the earth energy. Whirlwind. Duan Lingtian continued rushing through his journey. When he came across any form of earth energy, he would use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hands to clear his path. Sometimes, he used his punches and palms so it was faster and easier. After all, not every nature energy were like the earth energy that could easily be cleared by cutting them into halves, particularly the water and fire energy. Although they were slashed apart by the sword ray, the cracks that were made by the slash did not allow Duan Lingtian to pass through it entirely. This was because the water and fire energy would merge into one immediately after if were slashed by the sword ray. As for the earth energy that he slashed open, it was similar to a heavy boulder that was slashed apart. For this reason, it would be sliced into halves and fall to the sides when Duan Lingtian slashed it, opening a path for him instantly. Boom, 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 comma. Throughout his journey, Duan Lingtian dashed around madly and charged toward the other side of the long corridor. The place where he passed by was filled with his fist and palm prints. At the same time, a series of thunderous explosions were set off in succession as well. Whoosh, 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 comma. When Duan Lingtian encountered the earth energy, he immediately took out his quasi-royal grade spirit sword to open up the pathway. Whenever the sword ray was pointed forward, the earth energy would instantly be slashed into halves. Just a little bit more. Eventually, Duan Lingtian, who forcefully charged forward, could clearly see the end of the long corridor. As long as he could reach it, he would be considered to have successfully cleared the bumpy road and passed the test of the 4th level in Qingfeng Palace. He would then be able to get his hands on the golden key. With my current speed, I'm sure nobody else competing with me can be faster than I am. Duan Lingtian was very confident in his own strength. Finally, with the aid of his powerful strength, Duan Lingtian managed to successfully clear the bumpy road and pass the test at the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace after he arrived at the end of the long corridor. Whoosh! After Duan Lingtian had passed through the long corridor, he suddenly came to a halt without warning as the purple robe on his body gracefully fluttered in the wind. Almost exactly at the same time when Duan Lingtian came to a halt, another 2 swift whistling sounds resonated in the wind. 2 figures stood in the distance and revealed their true identities. Oh! Duan Lingtian was extremely surprised by the fact that somebody else arrived here as fast as he did. He could not suppress his curiosity as he narrowed his eyes at them. In just a glance, he immediately recognized the 2 people. Xu Qing and Zhuo Yu. The 2 of them were the second-rate Foss's young powerhouses from the northern desert. Xu Qing was the strongest person among the current younger generation in North Nether sect, and Zhuo Yu was the strongest person among the current younger generation in Anicha sect. The moment Duan Lingtian identified the 2 of them, a light immediately flashed across his eyes. I can't believe I encountered them here. And here I thought I'll only encounter them at the 5th level. Whether it was Xu Qing or Zhuo Yu, they were both no match for him if they did not use their spirit weapons. However, once they used their spirit weapons, it did not matter if it was Xu Qing or Zhuo Yu, both of their strengths would surpass his. If he was not mistaken, their strengths were almost 20 ancient horned dragons stronger than his. Among the current young generation in the northern desert, Xu Qing and Zhuo Yu shared the same fame as Lei Zhang, the Azumo sect's disciple whom he had killed previously. Both of their strengths had to be more or less on par with Lei Zhang's. 4th level void transformation with a comprehension of the 4th level void transformation concept. Without any spirit weapon, they could unleash the strength of 1100 ancient horned dragons. Once they used their grade 1 spirit weapon, they would have a 87-88% boost based on their 4th level void transformations, origin energies that was equivalent to the strength of over 520 ancient horned dragons. The 2 of them added together would equal to the strength of over 1620 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian saw Xu Qing and Zhuo Yu, the 2 of them noticed him as well. A look of astonishment crept up on their faces. It did not cross their minds that they would encounter him here. Hints of dread could be seen in their eyes when they looked at him. They had both witnessed Duan Lingtian's strength previously. He had killed Lei Zhang, who was as well known as they were at the northern desert and possessed strength that was more or less on par with them. At this moment, they were not sure if the heaven and earth phenomenon Duan Lingtian displayed previously, without his spirit weapon, after the mobilization of his heaven and earth energy was cast unreservedly or not. If there was still some reservations, Duan Lingtian's strength was definitely better than theirs. However, Duan Lingtian's strength was no match for theirs if that was the extent of his power. Faced with the dreadful gazes from the 2 people, Duan Lingtian remained unruffled. He could guess what they were thinking. Although his face remained calm, he could not help but feel slightly nervous inside. My current strength is only about 1,600 ancient horned dragons even if I use all my strength and the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Previously, it was entirely pure luck that I was able to kill Lei Zhang. It was all thanks to Lei Zhang for underestimating me too much and attacked me without using any spirit weapon. Due to this reason, I was able to take the lead and inflict great injuries on him. Even if he had used his grade 1 spirit weapon, it would still be hard for him to exert the full power he had at his peak due to his injuries. In the end, it's precisely because of his injuries that he died in my hands. If he was not injured in the first place, his strength would be over 20 ancient horned dragons stronger than mine. Although I was not afraid of him, it would still be extremely difficult for me to win against him. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brilliantly as he recalled his fight with Lei Zhang. He could not help but feel lucky. It was mostly due to pure luck that he was able to annihilate Lei Zhang so swiftly and efficiently. Otherwise, the battle between him and Lei Zhang would most likely end in a draw. This was because he was not entirely confident in winning against Lei Zhang with his grade 1 spirit weapon at his peak. Whether it's Xu Qing or Zhuo Yu, both have a strength that's on par with Lei Zhang. I'm not afraid if there's only one of them. However, I'll definitely lose if the two of them attack at the same time. Duan Ling Tian returned to his senses and gasped inwardly, a hint of dread filled his eyes. At this moment, he could only hope Shu Qing and Zuo Yu would not join forces with each other. Otherwise, he would definitely be in deep trouble. As the saying goes, it's always wiser to play it safe. I must think of a way to deal with this situation. It's very likely the two of them would join forces with each other. Duan Ling Tian inhaled deeply. His mind whirred quickly as he began to find a way. However, he could not think of anything at all even after a while. What should I do? Duan Ling Tian muttered and frowned. At the same time, his eyes began to dart and look around. He immediately noticed the other 5 long corridors by the side. There are a total of 6 long corridors in the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, including the one I took. In other words, apart from Shu Qing, Zuo Yu, and I, another 3 people will arrive at the 4th level as well. However, they must not have cleared the test at the 4th level, the bumpy road. That earth energy contained the strength of 1,500 ancient horned dragons. Among the young powerhouses who entered the Martial Emperor's secret treasure, only Shu Qing, Zuo Yu, and I are able to deal with this test. 996 Chapter 997, Duan Ling Tian's Crisis. Soon after, Feng Tianwu appeared in Duan Ling Tian's mind. Naturally, Tianwu can suppress the earth energy that contains the strength of 1,500 ancient horned dragons if she risks her life and casts the fire profundity. Even if she casts the 1st level fire profundity that's at the lowest level, the strength's still equivalent to 2,000 ancient horned dragons. If Feng Tianwu ignored the counterattack from her fire spirit body and risked her life to cast the 1st level fire profundity, her strength would be equivalent to 2,000 ancient horned dragons. However, if that was the case, the cost would be very great as well, she could explode and die from it. The force from the fire spirit body hidden in her body was not simple. The 5 young powerhouses who reached the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, including Shu Qing and Zuo Yu, must have had the same experience as me. Judging from the number of young powerhouses from each sect that entered Qingfeng Palace, this place, the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, surely leads to the 5th level. After all, the 5th level is the final level of Qingfeng Palace. If I'm not mistaken, the remains of Martial Emperor Qingfeng must be at the 5th level. When Duan Ling Tian thought of this, his eyes immediately gleamed brilliantly. They were filled with anticipation and desire. The anticipation of discovering the body of Martial Emperor Qingfeng, and the desire to obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body, particularly that Emperor stage profundity fragment that he yearned to possess even in his dreams. When Duan Ling Tian was deep in his thoughts, Shu Qing and Zuo Yu exchanged glances tacitly. None of them moved for a very long time as though they had discussed this beforehand. Both of them could be considered as old rivals and were very familiar with each other. At this moment, the fact that they simultaneously appeared at the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace took them by surprise. Shu Qing, Zuo Yu called out unhurriedly with narrowed eyes. Battle intent filled his eyes as though he could not wait to battle it out with Shu Qing for at least 300 rounds to determine the winner. In his opinion, he would become the most powerful person among the younger generation in the northern desert as long as he could defeat Shu Qing. This way, there was no need for him to share the limelight with Shu Qing again. At this moment, Zuo Yu completely ignored Duan Ling Tian's existence. Zuo Yu. As a sword cultivator, Shu Qing was a lot calmer compared to Zuo Yu. Faced with the intense battle intent oozing out of Zuo Yu who was staring at him, Shu Qing ignored it completely and casually returned the stare. Zuo Yu's face darkened, and he was about to launch his attack when he saw the nonchalance on Shu Qing's face. However, a voice entered his ears and shocked him like a bolt of lightning. It completely suppressed the anger that rose up from his heart. Zuo Yu, don't you think the match between you and I should be postponed until we kill Duan Ling Tian together? The voice that entered Zuo Yu's ears was none other than Shu Qing's voice transmission. Currently, we're not sure if he held back any of the strength he displayed previously. However, whether he held back or not, we definitely can't allow him to live. If we fight each other, we'll both eventually end up greatly defeated and wounded. Do you really want him to be the fisherman who profits when the snipe and the clam grapple? I suggest we join forces and kill him first. At this point in the voice transmission, Shu Qing's voice instantly became more solemn. My gut feeling tells me Duan Ling Tian's not simple, I feel extremely uneasy with him alive. After listening to Shu Qing's reminder, Zuo Yu was hit by a pang of realization. He was reminded of Duan Lingtian's existence and instantly regained his senses. He had almost forgotten about Duan Lingtian earlier. You and I can join forces, but the profundity fragment he has belongs to me. Zhuo Yu bargained as he looked at Xu Qing. However, his words instantly elicited a mocking smile on Xu Qing's face. Zhuo Yu, have you forgotten the most important thing? Today, we'll have to fight and determine the winner between the both of us. When that time comes, one of us will be killed by the other person. The person who survives will then obtain the golden key and the other rewards left behind by Martial Emperor Qing Feng at the 4th level before continuing to ascend to the 5th level to obtain the 3 profundity fragments left in Martial Emperor Qing Feng's body. Since one of us will die, don't you think this condition of yours is a little unnecessary? Xu Qing finished his words in one breath. Xu Qing's words took Zhuo Yu by surprise. He quickly regained his senses and agreed with Xu Qing's words. In that case, we'll join forces to kill Duan Lingtian first. Zhuo Yu took a deep breath and stared coldly at the purple-clad young man standing nearby. When he noticed Duan Lingtian was looking around as though he was looking for something, a sneer immediately crept up on his face. He said cruelly, Duan Lingtian, take a good look at your surroundings. It's destined you won't be able to see anything else in the world after today. When Zhuo Yu's words entered Duan Lingtian's ears, his face immediately darkened. Zhuo Yu. Although Duan Lingtian was looking at Zhuo Yu, he could clearly sense the indifference from Xu Qing who was staring at him from the side. It was an extremely cold look that seemed as though he wanted to devour a certain somebody. They really joined forces. His heart immediately jolted. Although he was mentally prepared, his heart could not help but tighten when the moment arrived. His face immediately became solemn while a hint of dread gleamed in his eyes. Ha ha ha, Duan Lingtian, it doesn't matter if you held back when you killed Lei Zhang. Today, Xu Qing and I will join forces, and you'll definitely die. When Zhuo Yu noticed the dread in Duan Lingtian's eyes, he threw his head back, laughing maniacally. His laughter was wanton and unrestrained. From what he could see, Duan Lingtian had to have some knowledge of his and Xu Qing's strength. The moment Duan Lingtian heard Xu Qing and him would be joining forces, the dread in Duan Lingtian's eyes clearly showed he was not confident he would be able to defeat them both. Zhuo Yu, I realized you really do spout a lot of nonsense. Xu Qing spoke in a cold voice, it was as cold as the gaze that he focused on Duan Lingtian. Before we kill Duan Lingtian, you better keep your guard up. Be careful not to fail in this easy task. Xu Qing. The instant Duan Lingtian heard his intention to kill him, horror instantly dawned on his face as a cold killing intent shot out of his eyes. This Xu Qing actually joined in with Zhuo Yu's villainy. Although Duan Lingtian was not willing to admit it, he had no other choice but to admit Xu Qing and Zhuo Yu joining forces was the best method to deal with him. If the situation was reversed, and he was in Xu Qing's shoes, he would make the same decision as well, get rid of Duan Lingtian first before deciding the victor with Zhuo Yu in a deadly match. The last person to survive would be the winner. Not only would he obtain the golden key and the other rewards, he would also ascend to the 5th level, the highest level of Qing Feng Palace, and obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Martial Emperor Qing Feng's body. Xu Qing, now. At this moment, Zhuo Yu, who was reminded by Xu Qing, suddenly shouted without warning and prompted Xu Qing to charge toward Duan Lingtian. It could be seen that Zhuo Yu's movement was as swift as the wind. In the midst of charging forward, he took out the Grade 1 spirit weapon he had previously obtained from the outer ring of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure, a curved saber that looked extremely simple and old. Swish! Zhuo Yu made a move and instantly exerted his full strength without any reservation. Gusts of solidified blue wind Kai swept out from his body and emanated a vast and tyrannical aura before it merged with the curved saber in his hand. The saber ray on the curved saber immediately soared up and charged toward Duan Lingtian mercilessly in an overbearing manner. It was as though it was about to cut him into halves. The heaven and earth energy whirred in the sky and finally gathered into a visible heaven and earth phenomenon. Over 1,620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons pounced out together with Zhuo Yu. As the curved saber in Zhuo Yu's hands slashed out to kill Duan Lingtian, the 1,620 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons suddenly sped up and pounced toward him with their fangs and claws bared. It was as though they were about to tear him into pieces. 4th level Void Transformation. 4th level Advanced Wind Concept. Grade 1 Spirit Saber. This was the full strength of Zhuo Yu, the strongest person among the current younger generation in Anicha sect. As the strongest person among the current younger generation in Anicha sect, Zuo Yu's strength naturally was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. Apart from his full strength, he managed to cultivate a set of heaven-ranked saber technique martial skills to an extraordinary level. Shadow Glow Machete. When the curved saber in Zuo Yu's hands slashed toward Duan Lingtian and was inching closer to him, the soaring saber ray suddenly converged before it solidified and gathered by the side of the curved saber as it returned to its original nature. The speed, on the other hand, suddenly accelerated. Whoosh! As a saber shadow glimmered across the sky, an ultimate saber ray swept out and charged mercilessly toward Duan Lingtian's vital parts. At this moment, the speed of the curved saber in Zuo Yu's hand was at least 50% faster than before. Duan Lingtian and Xu Qing's could see the afterimage it left behind. The power of the Shadow Glow Machete was fully displayed for all to see. When Zuo Yu's figure flashed and charged toward him, Duan Lingtian had already taken out his quasi-royal grade spirit sword. As his origin energy rose, it merged with the four concepts that followed closely like shadows before it merged with the sword. Swish, 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 comma. Without warning, the sword ray soared up and created a series of sword-slashing sound. In just a blink of an eye, all that remained of Zuo Yu's saber was an afterimage that soon disappeared before his eyes. Shit! Horror dawned on Duan Lingtian. He hurriedly shut his eyes, his spiritual energy stretched out and wrapped around his body. He tried to use his spiritual energy to figure out the trajectory of Zuo Yu's saber. When his spiritual energy finally figured out the trajectory of the curved saber, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand trembled and disappeared into thin air. Sword drawing art. Whoosh! Along with the sound of swords that disappeared as soon as it appeared, an ultimate sword ray tore the sky open. Clang! A shrill sound of metal clanging resonated in the air. It was none other than the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand that managed to block the overbearing curved saber in Zuo Yu's hands in time. Swoosh! Zuo Yu beat him to the punch first. With the strength of 1,620 ancient horned dragons that was contained in his saber, he crushed Duan Lingtian's sword that contained 1.600 ancient horned dragons without any difficulty. 997 Chapter 998, The Nine Tribulation Sword Control Technique. Bang! The curved saber in Zuo Yu's hand had a saber ray that was completely formed by green energy. It dashed toward Duan Lingtian in an overbearing manner and made the energy on Duan Lingtian's sword tremble. Bang! 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 Comma. The saber ray that contained more than 1,620 ancient horned dragons' strength swept out ceaselessly. It was like the waves at the back were pushing at the waves in front as it suppressed Duan Lingtian's sword that contained 1,600 ancient horned dragons' strength. A wave of air explosion sounded, air currents and strong winds swept rampantly in every direction. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian held the sword in his hand as staggered a few steps back from Zuo Yu's attack. The lifeblood in his body surged. He looked clumsy, and his face became pale. If this happened on a normal day, there was a chance Duan Lingtian could slightly block Zuo Yu's attack that contained 20 more ancient horned dragons' strength than his. However, since Zuo Yu attacked first and got the upper hand, it was difficult for him to fight back. The fact that Zuo Yu struck first and possessed 20 more ancient horned dragons' strength was why he could easily defeat him. Unfortunately, the interference from the Earth formation in the bumpy road at Qingfeng Palace's 5th level prohibits me from using the Earth concept to boost my Earth energy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be stuck in such a difficult situation. The Earth formation was the inscription formation that unleashed Earth energy in the bumpy road and stopped Duan Lingtian from moving forward. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and felt his organs trembled. He did not look too good when he stared at Zuo Yu, who made him staggered a few steps back. However, he did not attack. Haha, Duan Lingtian, seems like my speculation's right. 1,600 ancient horned dragons' strength is your limit. Zuo Yu returned Duan Lingtian's stare. He laughed out loud as disdain filled his eyes. Whoosh, 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 comma. The ear-piercing sound of sword whistling sounded. A sliver of saber ray approached from afar toward Duan Lingtian. It was so overwhelming that it looked like it was raining swords. What followed the shower of swords that covered the sky was a silhouette that looked like a bolt of green lightning. Heaven and earth phenomenon formed above the green silhouette's head. It was exactly the same as the heaven and earth phenomenon above Zuo Yu's head. There were more than 1,620 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. 4th level void transformation. 4th level sword concept. Grade 1 spirit sword. Xu Qing. When Duan Lingtian saw the shower of swords raining down on him, His eyes quickly locked onto the green silhouette behind the sword rain. He swung the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand and dashed forward. 9 dragons radiant flash. As Duan Lingtian dashed forward with his sword, 3 divine dragons that were transformed from the integration of 4 concepts and origin energy soared out quickly. Whoosh, 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 comma. As soon as the 3 divine dragons soared out, 6 beams of lights shot out from the 3 pairs of eyes. They were targeted directly at the green silhouette that was far away. The green silhouette was obviously Shu Qing. What a powerful sword skill! 6 ultimate beams of lights charged forward at an alarming speed. Shu Qing narrowed his eyes, he thought he could easily kill Duan Lingtian. Soon after, his eyes gleamed as he withdrew the grade 1 spirit sword he drew out at lightning speed previously. Suddenly, the shower of swords that rained on Duan Lingtian vanished completely once Shu Qing recalled his attack. Whoosh, 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 comma. As Shu Qing withdrew the sword in his hand, he swung the sword in an arc in front of him that formed a dense sword web. Clang, 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 the sound reverberated almost as soon as the sword web was formed. Comma. The 6 ultimate beams of lights landed on the sword web one by one as a clear sound rang out. Airwaves swept out in every direction. However, they did not pierce through the sword web. Such a fast sword. Duan Lingtian became solemn, he did not expect Shu Qing's sword to be that fast. Shu Qing managed to form a layer of dense and indestructible sword web under such a circumstance. Duan Lingtian could tell the defensive technique of forming a sword web that Shu Qing performed was a defensive martial skill. Moreover, it was a heaven-ranked defensive martial skill. The damage on Shu Qing's was not minor after he bore the brunt of the 6 ultimate beams of lights. He could feel a wave of tremor in his organs as his lifeblood surged. His eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted, "Zuo Yu, this Duan Lingtian's very dangerous, let's work together to kill him as soon as possible without any delay." "Ha, Shu Qing, it seems like you've suffered a great loss too." Zuo Yu seemed to have realized something as he laughed out loud. However, the smile on his face soon disappeared. "Duan Lingtian, even the emperor can't save you today." Zuo Yu stared at Duan Lingtian with a cold gleam in his eyes. It was as though he was looking at a dead person. Right after he spoke, Zuo Yu dashed toward Duan Lingtian like a gust of wind. The curved saber in his hand left an afterimage in the air and soon vanished. Shadow Glow Machete. At this moment, Zuo Yu cast the same skill he demonstrated earlier with the intention to kill Duan Lingtian. It was the most powerful saber technique martial skill he had mastered. Whoosh! Zuo Yu's curved saber swung at Duan Lingtian like the Grim Reaper's scythe in an attempt to reap Duan Lingtian's life. Whoosh! Shu Qing moved and attacked simultaneously with Zuo Yu. Another shower of swords rained down as he lifted the sword in his hand. The shower of sword rained on Duan Lingtian, and there was nowhere for him to run. The both of them worked together, one attempted to slice Duan Lingtian in half while the other wanted to pierce tens of thousands of swords into his heart. More than 3,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes charged at Duan Lingtian independently. If that heaven and earth phenomenon belonged to a single entity, Duan Lingtian would have died. Nonetheless, the heaven and earth phenomenon still suppressed and suffocated Duan Lingtian even though it belonged to 2 people. Split Unite Formation. Duan Lingtian's eyes looked cold as he faced the merciless attacks from the duo. He integrated his origin energy into the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand and activated the inscription formation in it. The inscription formation in the quasi-royal grade spirit sword was the Split Unite inscription formation that Duan Lingtian shortened to Split Unite Formation. Once it was activated, 1 would split into 9 while 9 would combine into 1. All of a sudden, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand split into 9. He then spread out his spiritual energy and covered all 9 of his quasi-royal grade spirit swords so that they hovered and surrounded his body. Shu Qing and Zuo Yu were shocked when they witnessed the sword in Duan Lingtian's hand split into 9 and hovered around him. Although they were shocked, their attack did not slow down at all. The attack swept mercilessly toward Duan Lingtian. 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique. An idea sparked in Duan Lingtian's mind as he faced Shu Qing and Zuo Yu's attack. He was prepared to perform the unfamiliar sword skill he obtained from the Martial Emperor's secret treasure earlier to control the 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords and fight his opponents. As he unleashed all his spiritual energy, he controlled 4 out of 9 quasi-royal grade spirit swords to charge out. The swords charged toward Shu Qing and Zuo Yu with ferocious saber rays running rampant. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Each of the 4 quasi-royal grade spirit swords that charged in the air toward Shuqing and Zuoyu contained similar strength. It was similar to 4 Duan Lingtian's charging with a sword at the same time. Unfortunately, since Duan Lingtian was injured, the strength in each of the quasi-royal grade spirit sword was only equivalent to 1,400 ancient horned dragon's strength. It was far from his strength at his peak. Clang, 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 clang. Waves of magnificent energy collided with each other. The sound of explosions and 4 ear-piercing sound from the collision of metal weapons entered Duan Lingtian's ears like a thunderstorm. Duan Lingtian had a contrived smile on his face as he watched Shuqing and Zuoyu smash the 4 quasi-royal grade spirit swords that charged at them. The table would have turned if I performed the 9 tribulation sword control technique earlier. He did not expect his current spiritual energy would allow him simultaneous control over 4 swords when he performed the 9 tribulation sword control technique. The power of the attack was equivalent to 4 of him charging with the swords. Unfortunately, there was no such thing as a regret pill that he could consume in this world. The tiny mistake caused Duan Lingtian to be placed in a difficult situation where he was vulnerable to Shuqing and Zuoyu's attacks. Split Unite formation. In a moment of panic, Duan Lingtian only had the time to grab the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that was hovering next to him so that he could combine the remaining 8 quasi-royal grade spirit swords into one. Sword drawing arts. The quasi-royal grade spirit swords that became one charged quickly as though it had transformed into a thunderstorm of saber ray and headed toward Shuqing and Zuoyu's attacks. Shuqing and Zuoyu were already in shock when they saw the sword in Duan Lingtian's hand turned into 9 swords. Initially, they thought the 9 swords that appeared were fake. They only realized all the swords were real when the 4 swords charged at them with more than 1,400 ancient horned dragons' strength each. However, they could not help but be surprised again at this very moment. Before they could calm themselves down, they witnessed Duan Lingtian turned his 9 swords into one. It caused a stir in their hearts again. It had also caused their attacks to weaken without them realizing it. Although their attacks were weakened, Duan Lingtian still could not bear it due to the injuries that he sustained. Clang, whoosh. Duan Lingtian was thrown off together with his sword once again as a curved saber and sword swung and collided with the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand and created an ear-piercing noise of metal weapons colliding. Duan Lingtian, who was thrown off like an arrow that left the bowstring, tried slowing down using his origin energy, but the effect was minuscule. Eventually, his body smashed against the side of the wall. His organs shook tremendously while his lifeblood surged. He could not help but spit out a big mouthful of blood as it gurgled in his throat. Pa! Blood splatters were created from the blood that Duan Lingtian spat on the ground and bloomed like bright red roses. At this time, Duan Lingtian could only take out the life recovery pill that he had refined and consumed it. Duan Lingtian healed his injuries by absorbing the medicinal efficacy. As he looked apprehensively at Shuqing and Zuoyu who continued to attack him, he noticed the ground beneath him was trembling. An inscription formation. Duan Lingtian's astute spiritual energy soon found out he had unintentionally activated another inscription formation. No, to be exact, he had activated 2 inscription formations. He noticed there was an aura of inscription formation that came from the other side before a loud bang sounded. 998. When Duan Lingtian was looking in the direction of the loud explosion, a part of the ground was destroyed by a hidden energy that came from underground. Whoosh! A stone platform suddenly rose at an alarming speed. There was an exquisite little box on top of the stone platform. The tiny box was similar to the one Duan Lingtian had seen at Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level. However, the object in the tiny box at Qingfeng Palace's 3rd level was a silver key. Could a gold key be in this box? Duan Lingtian's heart began to palpitate as he speculated on his own. Duan Lingtian's attention was on the tiny box, and it also caught the attention of Shuqing and Zuoyu who were charging menacingly toward Duan Lingtian. They were in the midst of charging at Duan Lingtian when their movements came to a halt. A burning desire lit up their eyes. Whoosh! Soon after, Zuoyu dashed out and changed his direction to the tiny box on top of the stone platform. The matter of killing Duan Lingtian was pushed to the side for the time being. Zuoyu! Shuqing shouted as his facial expression changed. He did not expect Zuoyu to be so selfish. He had promised he would kill Duan Lingtian first and fight Shuqing later. In the end, he went for the tiny box that they suspected might contain the gold key. Whoosh! All of a sudden, Shu Qing dashed out like a sharp gleaming sword at an alarming speed. He attempted to stop Zuo Yu from taking the tiny box with lightning speed. HMPH. When Zuo Yu saw Shu Qing was going to fight over the tiny box that they suspected contained the gold key, his face was solemn as he scoffed. HMPH. Without further delay, he began to fight Shu Qing. Both of them were old rivals, their abilities were similar, and their fight usually ended in a tie. However, they fought with all their might for the sake of the box. They seemed to have completely forgotten about Duan Lingtian. Perhaps they felt Duan Lingtian was no longer a threat to them at the moment, and whoever survived would be able to kill him easily. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian knew his life was no longer at risk for the time being when he saw Zuo Yu dashed toward the tiny box that they suspected contained the gold key. Duan Lingtian did not show too much interest in the tiny box at the moment. Naturally, it would be wrong to say he had zero interest in the box. At this moment, there was no way for him to obtain it even if he was interested. Soon after, Duan Lingtian's attention shifted to what was happening beneath his body. At this very moment, his entire being was lifted by a floorboard that was slowly rising. Duan Lingtian leapt and landed on the ground. With just a glance, he saw a green vine had appeared under the rising floorboard. The rising floorboard was being lifted by the green vine. Although there was only one green vine before his eyes, it was as thick as an adult's thigh. What's that? However, what caught Duan Lingtian's attention was not the green vine. It was the magenta fruit that hung on the green vine as it sparkled with a faint violet glow. Violet spike fruit. When Duan Lingtian browsed through the rebirth martial emperor's memory, he quickly identified the fruit before his eyes. It was a spirit fruit exclusively for void transformation martial artists. The violet spike fruit was a spirit fruit exclusive to void transformation martial artists. Among the spirit fruits in the rebirth martial emperor's memory, the violet spike fruit was considered the top spirit fruit that was exclusive to void transformation martial artists. It was said that after consuming the violet spike fruit, even a martial artist who had just broken through to the 9th level void transformation would be able to break through to the martial emperor stage and become a martial emperor powerhouse as long as he had comprehended the monarch stage profundity. One could imagine how powerful the violet spike fruit's medicinal efficacy was. I'm badly injured now. Even if I attack with all my strength, I can only muster up the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Shu Qing and Zuo Yu can easily kill me. But if I eat the violet spike fruit... Duan Lingtian looked in the distance as he thought about this, his guard was up the entire time. He could not help but feel relieved when he saw Shu Qing and Zuo Yu did not notice the strange incident that occurred on his side since they were fighting over the tiny box that they suspected contained the golden key. Whoosh! At the same time, Duan Lingtian, who felt relieved, immediately extended his hand as quick as lightning and plucked the ripe magenta fruit, the violet spike fruit. He immediately put it into his mouth. Duan Lingtian swallowed the violet spike fruit in just a few bites. He felt a stream of warm current entering his body and releasing powerful medicinal efficacy again and again. Such a powerful medicinal efficacy. The medicinal efficacy is so powerful that it can't even be compared to the spirit fruit I previously took from Zishang. With its medicinal efficacy combined with the overbearing medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill, my cultivation base might be able to instantly break through to the 5th level void transformation. Although Duan Lingtian had already known how great the violet spike fruit was from the rebirth martial emperor's memory, he only realized how great the violet spike fruit really was after he consumed it. No, it's not just the 5th level void transformation, it's even possible to break through to the 6th level void transformation. Duan Lingtian thought to himself when he sensed the rebirth pill's medicinal efficacy, that usually lay dormant deep in his dantian, leaving his dantian at an alarming speed. It then merged with his origin energy and the violet spike fruit's medicinal efficacy. It was his first time seeing the rebirth pill's medicinal efficacy this active. It felt like he was injected with chicken blood as origin energy ran lightning fast in the meridians within his body. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Roving Dragon Form. Without further delay, Duan Lingtian immediately sat on the ground and cultivated with his eyes closed. At the same time, he did not forget to hold the 9th level wind concept fragment in his hand. One should know that the comprehension speed of wind concept would be accelerated whenever he cultivated the roving dragon form's mental cultivation method. In his body, origin energy and the overbearing medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill and violet spike fruit were rotating cycles after cycles with the aid from the roving dragon form's mental cultivation method. The bottleneck to the 4th level void transformation that was already loose became even looser after a few hard impacts. It felt like it would be broken through with just a few more impacts. Bang, 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 comma. A few impacts later, Duan Lingtian felt a light bang within his body as he broke through the bottleneck that led to the 4th level void transformation. Origin energy surged as it went through a tremendous change. 4th level void transformation. The origin energy that had transformed did not stop there. Triggered by the rebirth pill and the violet spike fruit's overbearing medicinal efficacy, the origin energy did not slow down as it continued to rotate cycles after cycles with the aid from the roving dragon form's mental cultivation method. Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was rising at a terrifying speed. However, Duan Lingtian's mind was not on his cultivation base. He could clearly feel his wind concept had changed, but the change did not come from the breakthrough. It doesn't seem like the wind concept has broken through, however, I can sense another kind of energy coming out of it. The energy feels charged and ready. What's that exactly? Curious, Duan Lingtian tried making contact with the energy that came from the wind concept. Soon after, he felt a burning aura coming out of his body. In just an instant, a rampant and hot energy soared and enveloped his entire being. However, the burning red energy that appeared did not cause him any harm. It's the fire concept. Duan Lingtian opened his eyes and absent-mindedly looked at the energy surrounding his body. It was a concept. The fire concept. That's not right, the fire concept's level seems to be similar to the wind concept. Through trial and error, Duan Lingtian discovered a shocking fact. To his surprise, the fire concept that came out of the 3rd level advanced wind concept he had comprehended was similar to the wind concept. It was also the 3rd level void transformation concept. It meant that the fire concept he just comprehended was instantly at the 3rd level advanced fire concept. Isn't this 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique's 8th form, the roving dragon form, a little crazy? It didn't only birth the fire concept out of the wind concept, the fire concept it birthed is on such a high level too. Moreover, there seems to be some kind of connection between the fire concept and the wind concept. It feels like the fire concept would break through whenever the wind concept experiences a breakthrough. Duan Lingtian's heart began palpitating when he thought about this. If that's really the case, I don't even have to comprehend fire concept separately. All I need to do is elevate the wind concept, and the fire concept will follow suit. Perhaps when I have comprehended wind profundity, it would follow and turn into fire profundity as well. Duan Lingtian's heart beat even faster as he thought to this point. It was beating so fast it felt like his heart was going to jump out of his chest. What's that? What was happening on Duan Lingtian's side finally caught Xuqing and Zuo Yu's attention. After another round of attack, they did not rush into the fight again for the time being. Their attention simultaneously shifted to the other side. They saw a thick green vine that lifted a floorboard before their eyes. With their great eyesight, they noticed a new notch on the green vine with just one glance. It was as though somebody had just plucked something off it. Spirit fruit. The two of them looked at each other and saw realization dawned in each other's eyes. Both of their faces changed dramatically at the same time. Did Duan Lingtian pluck the spirit fruit? Could the spirit fruit be the other reward that Martial Emperor Qingfeng left behind at the 4th level? Both of their hearts thumped heavily. They remembered Martial Emperor Qingfeng's message clearly. In the message, it was mentioned that there would be other rewards at Qingfeng Palace's 5th level apart from the gold key. Martial Emperor Qingfeng did not reveal what the other rewards were in the message. Therefore, they did not really pay any mind to the other rewards since the beginning. As soon as the tiny box that they suspected contained the gold key appeared, they were so focused on fighting over the ownership of the tiny box that they had completely ignored what was happening on the other side. Translator's thoughts. Insignia 1. The author used 5th level but they haven't left the 4th level yet. Probably a typo. 999. Damn it. Duan Lingtian plucked the spirit fruit before we did. I think he hasn't had the chance to consume it yet. Zuo Yu's expression was getting worse. He was so angry that his body trembled slightly. Whoosh. Compared to him, Xuqing was much more straightforward as he charged directly at Duan Lingtian like a sword. He dashed out and shouted at the same time, Duan Lingtian, hand over the spirit fruit. At this moment, neither Zuo Yu nor Xuqing was surprised by the flame that was burning on Duan Lingtian's body. It was the fire concept. One should know Duan Lingtian had never once used fire concept when he fought them earlier. All of their attention was on the spirit fruit Duan Lingtian had plucked from the green vine. In their opinion, the spirit fruit was definitely not an ordinary spirit fruit since it was given as a reward at Qing Feng's 4th level. Shu Qing, damn it. When Zuo Yu saw Shu Qing with his quick as lightning sword approaching Duan Lingtian in an attempt to kill him and snatch the spirit fruit, his facial expression changed dramatically. Origin energy ran rampant on his body while wind concept followed him like a shadow. He considered it thoroughly and prepared to chase after him. However, his movement came to halt just as he stepped out. It was as though something unexpected had happened. What? How's this possible? Zuo Yu, who was rooted to the spot, shuddered. His eyes were staring into the distance, they were filled with fear that came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, it seemed as though he had witnessed something unbelievable. In the distance, Duan Lingtian's face was calm as he faced Shu Qing, who was determined to kill him in one blow with his sword that contained more than 1,620 ancient horned dragons' strength. However, there was a chill hidden deep in Duan Lingtian's eyes. I see you've come to die. It was unknown when a grin appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. Although he sustained severe injuries on his body, he knew that it would be easy for him to kill Shu Qing with his current ability even if he had sustained even more serious injuries. Duan Lingtian's stare turned completely cold as he faced Shu Qing, who was dashing toward him with a sword. 9 Dragons Radiant Flash. In the next second, a quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared out of nowhere as Duan Lingtian lifted his arm. He aimed directly at Shu Qing, who was charging at him menacingly. Whoosh, whoosh. Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian dashed out with his sword, 3 khaki divine dragons with red flames, green energy, purple lightning and a ferocious sword concept that surrounded them appeared out of thin air and charged toward Shu Qing. At the same time, the green energy pierced the red flame and made the fire burn rampantly as the 3 divine dragons dashed out. The wind concept was fueling the fire concept. In the meantime, the 3 divine dragons' speed accelerated. Their eyes gleamed, and 6 ultimate beams of light shot out before it instantly disappeared. A short and sharp whistling noise sounded again and again. The ultimate beams of light shot out from the 3 khaki divine dragons' eyes and vanished before Shu Qing's eyes the second they appeared. *T. Shu Qing's expression changed suddenly. Unfortunately, it was destined to be the last expression he showed alive. The second Shu Qing's expression changed, grotesque bloody holes appeared on each of his 6 vital body parts, including the space between his eyebrows, throat, and chest. 6 bloody arrows were shot. They landed on the ground as blood splatters bloomed like bright red roses. Whoosh, 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 6 ultimate beams of light shot through 6 vital parts in Shu Qing's body. After killing him, the lights continued on its trajectory and hit the side of the wall on Qingfeng Palace's 4th level. One must say the wall in Qingfeng Palace's 4th level was really tough. The 6 ultimate beams of light that came from the 9 dragons' radiant flash Duan Lingtian cast did not leave any marks on the wall even after he had a breakthrough in his strength. Bang! Shu Qing's body finally fell to the ground. He was no longer breathing when he fell into the pool of blood. The most powerful young man in the current North Nether sect was dead. How's this possible? No, it can't be, it can't be. Everything that had just happened shocked Zuo Yu, who was ready to fight Shu Qing for the spirit fruit Duan Lingtian possessed. Zuo Yu happened to witness everything at the moment he was about to step out. He could not move his feet from the shock. It was as though his feet were filled with lead. Such powerful strength. Although Duan Lingtian was injured, his eyes lit up after he killed Shu Qing with just a blow. FWAH. Meanwhile, the heaven and earth energy above Duan Lingtian's head whirred and formed the heaven and earth phenomenon. More than 2,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. Duan Lingtian was injured, so he could only muster up that amount of strength. Otherwise, the ancient horned dragon silhouettes that appeared in the heaven and earth phenomenon would definitely be more. Although it was just a little boost of strength, it had caused Zuo Yu, who was standing in the distance still in shock, to reveal fear in his eyes as his expression changed drastically. Run, 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 At this moment, that was the only thought that filled Zuo Yu's mind. The thought immediately filled his entire mind. Whoosh! Without further delay, Zuo Yu dashed like a lightning toward the corridor that was furthest away from Duan Lingtian in an attempt to escape. The corridor was the bumpy road he went through earlier. Trying to escape, Duan Lingtian figured out Zuo Yu's intention in an instant. He could not help but grin at this moment. Zuo Yu had coveted the profundity fragment he possessed ever since the first time they met. If it was not for Shu Qing and Lei Zhang, perhaps Zuo Yu would have attacked Duan Lingtian when they first met. Moreover, it was impossible he would let Zuo Yu go since Zuo Yu attempted to kill him earlier. The moment a cold gleam flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes, he swung the quasi-royal spirit sword in his hand to cast the 9 dragons' radiant flash again. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, he could definitely kill Zuo Yu before he could escape with his current ability using the 6 ultimate beams of light from the 9 dragons' radiant flash. However, something unexpected happened when he was getting ready to attack. Bang, 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 just as Duan Lingtian swung the quasi-royal spirit sword in his hand to attack, he could feel tremors in his organs. His expression changed drastically. His face turned pale as he coughed up a mouthful of blood after he screamed, "Ah!" An intense pain spread all over his body. It felt like he had completely lost his strength. Clang! Eventually, Duan Lingtian could only use the quasi-royal spirit sword to support his wobbly body. What happened? Although Duan Lingtian did not want to accept what had just happened, all he could do was watch as Zuo Yu faded in the corridor far away and disappeared before his eyes since he no longer had the strength to chase after him. At this moment, his body was in a complete mess. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and regained his composure. He figured out what happened after he took a look at his body. "Ah, I didn't expect this would be the cause." Duan Lingtian smiled wryly. He could not help but feel helpless after discovering the cause. He discovered the cause of the tremors in his organs and the intense pain all over his body that resulted in his complete loss of strength. It was caused by the origin energy integrating with the rebirth pill and violet spike fruit's medicinal efficacy. To be more precise, it was caused by the origin energy's breakthrough. Initially, he had used his origin energy to automatically cycle through the rotation following the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, roving dragon form, after his cultivation base had broken through to the 4th level void transformation. He did not think anything would be affected by that. However, he did not expect the origin energy that surged out suddenly when he killed Shu Qing would cause the violet spike fruit and rebirth pill's overbearing medicinal efficacy to strike back. It caused the origin energy to accelerate to its peak. In just seconds, it broke through the bottleneck to the 5th level void transformation and led him to the 5th level void transformation. As his cultivation base broke through to the 5th level void transformation, his origin energy also went through a transformation as expected. The origin energy that had broken through became even faster from the rebirth pill and violet spike fruit's medicinal efficacy. It messed up the cycle rotation Duan Lingtian had his origin energy performed. All of a sudden, his origin energy had taken a wrong turn that caused a tremor in his meridians and messed up his body. It had also severely injured Duan Lingtian again. Duan Lingtian had completely lost his strength from the severe injury on his body. The only thing he could do was watch as Zuo Yu left. "I hope Zuo Yu can't find his way out, or else." Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. He did not dare to think about what would happen next. Duan Lingtian snapped back to reality when he felt waves of pain from the origin energy running rampant in his body. He quickly began to calm his rampant origin energy. 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, roving dragon form. Due to Duan Lingtian's attempt to calm it, the origin energy that was driven by the rebirth pill and violet spike fruit finally went back on track and rotated as usual. At this moment, Duan Lingtian consumed another life recovery pill to heal. The damages in the organs were recovering at the speed of light. Approximately 15 minutes later, Duan Lingtian allowed the origin energy in his body to rotate without his guidance. It then shot out of his body and headed in the direction where Zuo Yu left. Soon after, Duan Lingtian entered the bumpy road as well. As he passed through the bumpy road in a reverse direction, he received an enthusiastic reception from the waves of nature energy just as he had expected. However, entering the bumpy road again was as easy as walking on a flatland since he had a boost in his ability. "Where's Zuo Yu?" Duan Lingtian did not see Zuo Yu even after he passed through the bumpy road. Eventually, he detected an inscription formation's aura in a corner. This inscription formation, through the rebirth martial emperor's memory, Duan Lingtian discovered the purpose of the inscription formation in the corner. It was an inscription formation with a single opening. It would usually appear at the exits or entrances of unique places where there was only one way out. One would be able to exit but not enter, and the other way round where one was allowed to enter but not exit. There's a path here as well. The inscription formation activated as soon as Duan Lingtian stepped out. It then turned into a faint light shield that shone on a large patch of ground in the corner. Rumble, rumble, When the large patch of ground was shown on, it slowly opened and revealed a stone stairway leading down.